Hey guys! Today we'll be recapping the manhwa I Became the Male Lead's Female Friend. Please like the video and subscribe if you enjoy it, as it really helps our channel grow. Now, let's dive in. Meet Dahlia Avalon. Dahlia is the only daughter of a noble family, and at first glance, she has everything a girl could ever dream of. Wealth, beauty, and loving parents. Her future looks bright to those who don't know how her story goes. You see, Dahlia is actually a side character from a novel named The Silver Bell Lady. In the novel, she is barely more than an extra, always at the edge of the scenes, and never quite managing to steal the heart of the male lead. The story itself revolves around the whirlwind romance between Roderick Bowser and the female protagonist who tells the story, a lady named O'Neill with unparalleled beauty. Sounds like a juicy plot, as long as you're O'Neill. So when a young girl from another world was reincarnated as Dahlia Avalon, you can imagine her confusion. Reborn again as a baby side character, she found that life as a baby was actually pretty fun. She had two loving and beautiful parents who never got sick of her and spent as much time as they could by her side, which is pretty rare for noble parents. Plus, the House of Avalon is a wonderful family and a good name to have inherited. The Duke and Duchess themselves have always been the perfect couple and had the utmost respect for one another. Maybe that's why her father, the Duke, doesn't have the heart to reject his wife's idea for Dahlia's nickname, Darling. I mean, it's not bad, and I guess it does sound a lot like Dahlia, but the baby hates it. And being in an infant body, there's not a lot she can do about it. Luckily, time goes by faster than she expects, and Dahlia is soon old enough to talk and walk like a proper noble lady. As she grew, she became the spitting image of her mother with her father's rose gold hair. Their family lived in perfect harmony for many years, and for a long time, Dahlia could forget about the plot. Then one day, the Duke received word that the Bowser family were soon to arrive at the capital. The male protagonist, whose name is Roderick Bowser, and like many male love interests, he has a very tragic past. Unlike the Avalon family, the Duke and Duchess Bowser married for political reasons and never got along. Eventually, the Duke brought home another woman who he doted on far more than his wife, a love which split their family apart. But Dahlia has no idea what point in the novel they are currently at. Maybe none of this has happened yet. Maybe Dahlia will have the privilege of witnessing it all. Either way, you can't blame her for feeling a sense of dread when one day an invitation arrived, addressed to Duchess Avalon. Naturally, at a meeting of the two mothers, they both brought their children in the hopes of bringing their families closer. Before arriving, Dahlia is incredibly nervous. I mean, how would you feel if you were headed toward the character you were destined to fall in love with? A man you knew would never love you in return. Well, luckily for Dahlia, this time around, she has control. She can choose how to live her life, and hopefully not waste it on arrogant heirs who won't love her back. They arrive at the giant mansion of the House of Bowser, where a butler escorts Dahlia and her mother inside. The mothers, who are old friends, reunite and introduce their children to one another. At first sight, Dahlia is totally awestruck, because the child hiding behind Duchess Charles Lena Bowser is a beautiful, angelic-looking creature with long, dark hair. That's weird. The Bowser family never had a daughter in the books. Dahlia introduces herself with a smile and makes one critical mistake. She addresses the child as she. Yeah, I know. I would have thought that was a girl too. I mean, look at him. He's too pretty for words. But this child is in fact Roderick Bowser, the male protagonist of the novel. He's just very feminine. And sensitive too, apparently, since he starts crying as soon as he's misgendered. Dahlia's mother seems to have made the same mistake, which is hardly surprising. Once he's done being a crybaby and the parents have left him alone, Dahlia tries to apologize for her mistake. Roderick kind of just stands there staring at her, so her next tactic is to offer him a walk. Anything to shake the awkwardness between them. Unexpectedly, Roderick takes her hand, and in the moment that their eyes meet, Dahlia realizes she might not be able to resist the fate set out for her in the plot. I mean, can you blame her? Sure, he's a little girly, but that is definitely one handsome boy. I can only imagine what he'll be like when he grows up. An hour has passed and the two haven't stopped holding hands. Damn, for a love interest, Roderick sure is awkward. I guess they only learned how to be charming and smooth later in life. The other thing that makes it kind of uncomfortable is that Dahlia has been so bold by his cuteness that she can hardly keep a conversation. Plus, since she knows all about his family situation, there are only so many topics she can pick. After all, how mean would it be if she started talking about how happy her parents are when she knows his are always fighting? When Dahlia looks over at one point, she finds him crying. Oh, not again. I know they're children, but come on! Enough is enough already. But Roderick seems embarrassed and apologizes for being so weird. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Dahlia decides to hold up her hand and show him how sweaty it is. Weird flex, but okay, girl. He offers her a handkerchief, and after that, the tension kind of falls away. They start again with a proper introduction rather than the formality of prince and princess. The young boy seems surprised to find that she doesn't hate him. Once he started crying, he assumed that was it, that she would find him irritating and cast him aside. Poor kid. Clearly the treatment of his father runs deep. Dahlia reassures him that she doesn't hate him at all. In fact, she cries a lot as well, and there's nothing wrong with that at their age. After that, Roderick feels much safer by her side. He thanks Dahlia and even flashes a gorgeous princely smile at her when they shake hands. After that, Dahlia was quickly drawn in by his gentle nature and unexpectedly compassionate side. He's so different from the grown-up character presented in the novel. This kind young boy in need of a friend tugs on her heartstrings. But his situation is only going to get worse. As the details of the Duke's affair emerge, the Duchess will slowly go mad with humiliation and anger. And before long, young Roderick will become that cold-hearted prince from the book. Burdened with this knowledge, but powerless to stop the plot from unfolding, Dahlia feels incredibly guilty, especially after the day they spent together, where he always let her choose what to eat, what games to play, where to walk. It's a total contrast from the stubborn knight he's destined to grow into, who discards anything that isn't useful and has very strong opinions. Honestly, the more we hear about the grown-up Roderick, the less I like him. That doesn't sound like a love interest. Sounds more like a pain in the butt if you ask me. It makes discovering his interests and preferences very difficult for Dahlia. Although she is understanding, since the Bowser family are famous for training knights who are absolutely obedient and never question an order. It makes sense that he would push his preferences to the side, even at such a young age. But that doesn't make it any less sad. Instead, she decides to take care of him, paying careful attention to little signals of his interest and suggesting new games to see how he likes them. Slowly, he becomes more and more open towards her, and the two of them grow closer. Eventually, the two families sit down to have dinner together. The parents on one side and the kids on the other. Ugh, I can't imagine anything worse. It looks like they're about to have an interview. With the Duke absent, conversation soon turns to how the trio met one another. As it happens, Dahlia's mother originally came to the Empire for an arranged marriage with the royal family. But when Dahlia's father, a knight at the time, was assigned as her bodyguard, the two fell in love immediately and just had to be together. It's a beautiful story, well worthy of a romance novel, but as they're telling it, Roderick is noticeably quiet. While their parents are chatting away, they get to talking about their favorite foods, things they do and don't dislike, to try to get him more comfortable. I have a feeling that whole thing had more to do with jealousy about how happy her parents are, but sure, Roderick. We can blame it on the beans. Since the prince likes peppers and hates beans, and Dahlia is totally the opposite, they concoct a plan to switch their plates while their parents aren't noticing. It's kind of adorable how nervous Roderick seems. It's good for him to have fun and take risks like this. Dahlia clearly gets him out of his comfort zone and makes him live a little. Her mother thinks so too, although she's focusing more on Dahlia, especially since she knows Dahlia doesn't actually like beans either. Anyone can tell what's on her mind. Isn't it every noble's mother's dream to have her daughter married to their childhood sweetheart? It seems like that idea might not be too far from Roderick's mind either. The next day, while the two are playing together, Dahlia falls asleep, and her playmate sort of just watches her. Not in a creepy Twilight kind of way, but in a careful, affectionate way. While she's sleeping, he thinks about how beautiful she is, even though usually he's the one being praised for his looks. His mind starts to slip into darker thoughts about his father, so he stands up suddenly and decides to get some snacks for when she wakes. This poor kid is so clearly being abused. I wish there was something they could do to get him out of that family. Maybe then he wouldn't grow up to be the person from the novel and Dahlia could end up with him instead? Roderick's bravery runs out just as he gets to the kitchen when suddenly he doesn't know what Dahlia will like. Because of the dinner they had, he asks the staff to make him something with beans. They're all very impressed with the little kid wanting to eat beans, especially since they know their mistress hates them. Roderick is shocked. She was offering to take them from his plate before. He assumes it must be an old habit, and she's changed her mind these days. Yeah, okay, kiddo. Whatever you want to think. The Duchess Aveline catches him on the way out and spots the sponge cake on his tray. She confirms the same thing to him, that Dahlia hates beans. And boy, does that send him into a minor meltdown. Suddenly, he realizes that everything she's been doing for him, every time she made a choice just for his sake or lied to try and make him more comfortable. At home, he never has the option to choose between things the way Dahlia encourages him to. Not one of his wishes has ever been granted, so after a while, he just stopped asking. Being with Dahlia is totally the opposite of being with his father. But after this realization, will he grow more fond of her or less? It's hard to tell. One thing is clear, that Roderick is now doubting whether his best friend is really happy when she's with him, or if it's more out of sympathy. Oh no! This is the worst! Kids this age shouldn't be worried about that sort of thing. After all, she was just trying to be kind. From then on, there's a pretty clear difference in his behavior toward her. He isn't so awkward or easily embarrassed, and sometimes he straight up just brushes her off. In the space of a few days, he suddenly becomes very good at hiding his emotions, and seems to be observing her much more than before. Dahlia just can't figure it out, until a few days later at dinner with her parents. Her mother asks if she can eat beans these days, and suddenly the whole truth comes tumbling out about the cake and what the Duchess said to Roderick. Everything. By now, it's pretty obvious what's happened. Her first thought is that she should apologize, clear the air between them, own up to the whole thing. That way, maybe he will trust her again and let down his guard a bit more. But every time she tries to open her mouth, the words just get stuck. I mean, it is a pretty awkward thing to have to own up to. Sorry, I actually hate beans. I just lied to be nice. What a weird thing to say. The other thing is that she doesn't want to make him feel ashamed or pitiful. And because all of this needs such careful wording if she doesn't want to hurt his feelings, she ends up swallowing it and saying nothing instead. I'm starting to see how these two characters ended up estranged in the original novel. I wonder if their falling out was over beans as well. A few days later, the Duchesses get together for a shopping trip and invite the kids along as well. Roderick doesn't often get a chance to go to the city, so it's kind of a special occasion for him. Dahlia is hoping this will be an opportunity for him to relax a little, and maybe then she can apologize. Dahlia's mother asks if they'll sit together in the carriage. Her daughter says yes. The prince says no. Damn, Roderick! I didn't realize one little incident about beans would send him this far over the edge. Once they get into the town, they head for a bakery. Dahlia expects Roderick to pretend to want sweets and eat them without complaint like usual, even though he doesn't really like dessert. So she asks her mother if they can just have tea and fruit instead, spinning a whole tale about how she doesn't want sweet food. But the moment the words have left her mouth, Roderick accuses her of lying. Yikes. Is it just me, or is it starting to get really uncomfortable between these two? He points out that she used to say she could never get sick of dessert. She tries to explain herself, but then he brings up Beangate, and suddenly he's saying he can't stand it when she lies for his sake. He even goes as far as to say that it makes him hate himself, and makes him doubt that she ever really enjoyed spending time with him. Woof, there it is. All out in the open now. He suddenly gets up and storms off. Dahlia follows him, but he won't listen. Suddenly, a waiter appears from nowhere, knocking into her and throwing hot tea into the air. It gets all over her dress and burns her hand. Immediately, Dahlia is swarmed with knights, distracted by their concerned mothers. And all the while, Roderick watches on, never saying a word. Well, there goes her shot at an apology. Everything ruined by one cup of tea. When Dahlia gets home, she's checked over by a doctor who says the burn won't leave a scar. She's all fine, but in order to avoid the wound getting infected, she's told to stay at home for the next week. Firstly, that's a bit of an overreaction for spilling some tea on her hand. And secondly, how the heck is she going to see Roderick now? The longer the situation stays unresolved, the more likely this is to be permanent. Time is of the essence, Dahlia. Rather than disobeying the doctor and her parents, Dahlia is still hoping Roderick still has enough affection and that he'll come and visit. Which he should do, right? Any decent boy would, since it is kind of his fault she ended up this way. But after a whole week in bed, Roderick never once turned up. On the final day of her containment, Dahlia rushes downstairs, determined to see him. To her shock, she finds Roderick and his mother sitting in their living room. It turns out he's been visiting the house every day. He just never actually came to see her. I can't tell if that's better or worse, honestly. This is where having a previous life comes in handy. Dahlia is emotionally intelligent enough to know that he doesn't hate her. He just blames himself and feels too guilty to come and see her. She's worried that storming in will have exactly the same result. So instead, she runs back to her room, climbs into bed, and starts crying as loud as she possibly can. Well, that's one way to get attention. After all the fuss, calling for her parents and screaming that it hurts, Roderick still doesn't show. The doctor gives her a strong dose of painkillers that he says will make her sleepy, so obviously, she doesn't eat them. Eventually, after everything is calmed down, the boy of the hour does arrive. Quietly, while she's pretending to sleep. But instead of watching her like a guardian angel, he harshly asks why she hasn't been taking her medicines. What? Is this kid psychic? How did he know she wasn't taking the painkillers, let alone the fact she was actually awake? So Dahlia sits up and opens her eyes. Roderick is surprised, but he doesn't run away. Good. Box number 1 has been ticked. Box number 2 is getting out a formal apology, but Roderick cuts her off and starts rambling about how she must hate him and she only suffers because of him. Oh dear, this goes deep. Dahlia can tell that words won't reassure him, so she switches tactics. Instead of comforting him, she asks the prince for a favor. Since he still feels guilty about her injury, he's eager to give her anything at all, he says. She extends a hand and asks him very simply to be her friend. It sounds silly, but I guess Roderick never thought of her that way before. And he's probably never had someone he could truly call a friend. Not with his father being so controlling and cruel. Dahlia finally gets a chance to tell him how happy he makes her, and finally explains why she lied the way she did. Of course, Roderick is happy to accept her as a friend, and they clear all the misunderstandings between them. After hours of talking and reconnecting, they fall asleep side by side, finally back to how things were. Ugh, what a relief. I really wasn't sure how things were going to go for a while back there. After their little reunion, Dahlia asks Roderick if he'll come by more often in the future, like he used to before. Well, you know, beans. He says of course, which apparently signals to Dahlia the start of a very important project. Getting to know the prince. She knows some of his likes and dislikes, but he's still holding back his opinion, acting like it's less important than hers. So the mission is to make him give his opinion too, and see himself as equally valuable in their friendship. No big deal. Just convince a chronically self-conscious kid with an abusive father that they have worth. Sure, piece of cake. Undeterred by the scale of the task, Dahlia begins with what she calls self-respect project, and what I call mission impossible. She quickly realizes that this is not going to be as simple as she might have hoped, and asks the family librarian for help, who turns out to be exactly the right person, because he is absolutely meticulous about this sort of thing. He says that planning his work every day helps him to feel a bit more dignified. Not particularly useful for a kid around the age of 8, but okay. So Dahlia goes around asking everyone what they do to feel self-respect. For her mother, it's writing in her diary. For her father, it's swords. Yeah, just swords. The butler actually has what's probably the best advice. Every morning, he looks at his reflection in the mirror and says out loud, "Today is going to be a good day." Isn't that sweet? The unfortunate side effect of this endeavor is that soon there's a rumor going around the house that Dahlia has low self-esteem. All of the servants and staff start gathering to try and cheer her up with their personal cheat codes to confidence. But it's all useful. So in the end, Dahlia surveys all the opinions and puts together a list of 8 solutions for Roderick's self-respect. Is this starting to feel a little bit patronizing to anyone else? I don't know about you, but if someone handed me a list of ways to respect myself, I don't know if I'd take it all that well. 3 days later, Roderick arrives, looking all dapper in his little robe with his hair tied back. Immediately, Dahlia pulls him aside and asks about his hobbies, things he likes to do. The little prince doesn't have any special hobbies, but he does admit that he used to like when his mom brushed his hair when he was younger. Oh wait, was that the last time he had something he liked? Jeez, this kid's backstory just gets darker and darker. The other thing he says he likes is playing with Dahlia, so at least that's a plus. As if she's his personal therapist, the next part of the self-respect plan is for Dahlia to make them do an exercise about preferences together. She asks Roderick to tell her things he likes, and when they find something he doesn't like, he has to say it out loud. The poor kid seems a bit uncomfortable, so instead, they decide to write an exchange diary together. Yeah, as if that's any less invasive. Basically, they both need to write a diary of what they get up to every day and how it makes them feel. Then, they'll swap and read each other's once a week. Dahlia bought 2 books and offers the first pick to Roderick. Honestly, I thought he might spontaneously combust, but it looks like the project is working, because he picks one right away, and then blushes like a baby, obviously. The second part of this plan, and coincidentally number 5 on the list of Roderick's self-esteem solutions, is to look in the mirror and compliment himself. The boy is immediately horrified. I mean, this is a kid who thinks that everyone hates him. It can't be easy to look inside and find something nice to say. So for today, Dahlia picks one for him and tells him to say, "I'm so cute." He does his best, despite a little stuttering and some serious blush. She makes him repeat it 5 times, at which point it's more like torture than self-respect. But once he's done, Dahlia repeats it to him, wrapping her arms around him and saying it right in his ear. Well, if those affirmations weren't enough to get him blushing, that will certainly do it. From then on, they work through the list one by one, doing each of the things together. Soon the day comes to exchange diaries. Roderick is a little shocked at just how much she's written, but some of the parts mention him and things she wants them to do together. He seems to appreciate those in his own quiet way. By this point, they have been friends for half a year and are closer than most siblings their age. And yet still, something is nagging at Dahlia that makes her unable to relax. One day, the two of them are playing Jenga at the Bowser household when the Duchess comes in and calls him Rod for short. Dahlia has never heard his nickname before and immediately asks if she can use it too. It's not like she would actually listen if he said no, so I guess it's a good thing he agreed. But then he asks if she has a nickname, and obviously, Dahlia doesn't want him to start calling her darling. Not when they're like 8. So she just pretends she doesn't have one. Why do I feel like that's going to come back and bite her in the butt later on? Unfortunately, her nosy mom is hiding just around the corner and hears the whole thing. She exposes Dahlia for lying, but doesn't reveal the nickname. Instead, she just acts all hurt that her daughter hates the name she made up for her and asks Roderick to be understanding. Right. Like that's gonna help. Perfect timing, Duchess. Thank you. As soon as he knows she's lying, Roderick starts to withdraw again. Now Dahlia is in the tricky position of explaining herself without actually giving the game away. She apologizes for lying, but she says she would be super embarrassed if he used it. But for once in his life, the little prince has enough of a spine to demand that she tell him anyway. I guess all those self-respect lessons are working out after all. Just maybe not in the way she was hoping. So Dahlia just comes out with it. But once the name is out in the open, it's actually more embarrassing for Roderick than it is for her. I guess the pressure is kind of on him to say it now. Go on, Roderick. You can do it. Suddenly, enjoying his shyness, Dahlia coaxes him through it, loving the way he blushes as he says it. And she doesn't let him off the hook, even when they meet the next day. He still can't call her darling, so instead he offers to do other things instead. Literally anything she wants. Anything other than that nickname. Uh-oh. You've really done it now, Roderick. I don't think he has any idea how cunning this girl can be. Obviously, Dahlia immediately starts planning the best way to tease him and even gets him to double down on the promise of having him swear on it. Oh dear. The next day, she appears somewhat creepily and announces that she has decided what she wants. She wants them to roleplay. No, get your mind out of the gutter. Not that kind of roleplay. She wants the two of them to play house. Mommies and daddies. That sort of thing. Although as Roderick rightfully points out, they're a little old for that. Dahlia pulls the sympathy card and says she never did it when she was little because she had no friends. So of course now he has no choice but to go along with it. Only, she also wants them to reverse roles so that Roderick is the mother and she's the father. She has him pretend that she just got back from work, completely ignoring his protest that maybe he should be the father since he is actually a boy. She even makes him put on a dress. To soften the blow, she promises to commit to her role and dress like a boy as well. And she does. But she's nowhere near as cute as Roderick when he comes out. Like, did that boy have a team of stylists or something? He looks so graceful and innocent. He tries to run away, but Dahlia encourages him to man up and get on with it. The sooner they finish the roleplay, the sooner he can get out of that adorable dress. The scene is set. These two are lovebirds in another world outside the imperial nobility who fell in love at first sight when they met at a festival. Roderick was her brother's fiancé at the time, but after jumping through hoops and obstacles, they made their match work. Wow, Dahlia has quite the imagination. Now newlyweds, the kids need to pretend they cannot live without each other, which is pretty easy for Dahlia. But someone as closed off as Roderick is going to struggle showing so much affection, especially under all those ribbons. From the moment they begin, Dahlia is relentless. She goes on and on about their love and how it's been ages since they last had a kiss. Give the poor kid a break, darling. He's already at his limit. But Dahlia doesn't know the meaning of the word chill and decides to push him even further. She asks if they can shower together, and when Roderick tries to refuse, he gets so embarrassed that he runs out of the room crying. Now you've done it. What was the point of all that self-respect practice if she's just going to dress him up and make fun of him? While he's having a little cry in the garden, Roderick does some thinking. That was definitely mean, and he knew he couldn't do it from the start. So maybe he should have just said no. But he just couldn't find the confidence to speak up. Even when she asked who was prettier between the two of them, he wanted to say it was her. He just couldn't. As the sun begins to set, Roderick decides to head back to the house and runs into a boy with green hair who mistakes him for a fairy. And you can see why. Even with all those ridiculous frills, the prince still looks beautiful. This is J-Ron Hayward, the youngest son of the famous Count Hayward. Because he's less talented than his older brothers, he gets bullied a lot. He was pushed to visit the Avalon mansion to make friends with their daughter, but he was afraid of the Bowser family and their reputation. While Jayron's parents were talking with the Avalons, he ran away to the gardens and unknowingly bumped into Roderick, all dressed up in his pretty little frock. I hope for the sake of his reputation that he's a good actor. Now it's really time to roleplay Roderick. From the moment he lays eyes on him, Jayron is entranced. Roderick tries to turn away, but he catches him, requesting a name. Roderick panics and gives him Dahlia's name instead. Well, at least he didn't give him his own. But how long is it going to take for Jayron to meet the real Dahlia Avalon and discover this imposter? Meanwhile, the original edition is wandering in her house when she bumps into her mother, who is delighted to find a little carbon copy of her husband wandering the halls. She's on the search for young Jayron, who is still on the run. The Duchess asks her daughter to search for him, and when she mentions the name, Dahlia immediately remembers him from the book. He's not an especially important character. Just like her, he exists at the edges of the novel. Wrapped up in her thoughts, Dahlia runs into Roderick in the gardens and immediately pulls him into her arms, covering his dress and hair with her blazer. She's obviously realized the danger of him being discovered, only she's a little too late. Roderick doesn't tell her this, of course. He lies and acts like he's never met the Hayward son, who is conveniently standing right behind them. Ugh, not again. This is going to become a tangled mess. Thinking quickly, Roderick grabs his playmate and tugs her away, running off together. Little do they know that Jayron saw the whole thing, giving him his jacket, the way they talk like close friends. And the worst thing of all is that he mistook the real Dahlia for Roderick Bowser. So now he thinks Roderick and Dahlia are in some kind of early age affair and has all these heartfelt imaginings about his first love being unrequited. Ugh, all this because that silly girl wanted to play dress up. If word gets through to their parents, she's going to be in big trouble. Eventually, the little Hayward was found and returned to his family. Probably a little heartbroken, but otherwise unharmed. A few days later, Roderick finds the courage to scold his playmate for putting him through the whole dress-up game. For once, Dahlia is quick to apologize. Probably because even someone as reckless as her knows it went a little too far. But as time goes on, innocent little Roderick changes bit by bit. Self-respecting and more dignified, he's able to hide his emotions, but not as coldly as before. So basically, he's just growing up. They continue writing in their diaries, but Dahlia is worried about upsetting Roderick since he actually has a spine these days, so she never tries to read his entries. That is until one day when he accidentally knocks his diary off the table, revealing a particularly emotional page. It says all sorts of mushy stuff that you would never expect from a kid like Roderick. Things like, "Dahlia makes me so happy," and "I hope this moment lasts a lifetime." Well, hello? Where has little Romeo been hiding all this time? Dahlia, of course, is delighted. She basically takes it as one giant compliment, but it's not all cherry blossoms and romance. While Roderick can't help but smile, there's something dark behind his expression. Little does Dahlia know, his father, the Duke, has been planning to return to the north, where the Bowser family traditionally resides for quite some time now. Roderick doesn't want to leave, of course, but he doesn't have much power to refuse. A few days later at dinner, the Duchess Avalon mentions that Roderick's birthday must be coming up since his mother has been busy preparing for a party and sending out invitations. This is shocking news to Dahlia. Not only did she have no idea his birthday was coming up, but she never actually knew his real age. And even more surprising, he's turning 10 years old. What? That little pipsqueak? But he's shorter than Dahlia and so dainty. How could he be turning 10? The last blow is when the Duchess mentions plans to have the two lovebirds dance together at the event, which means it's time to crack out her best shoes and dresses and learn how to dance like a lady. The kids take lessons together, which is totally adorable, since Dahlia is absolutely taller than Roderick and he's taking the lead. Roderick turns out to be a natural dancing star. Dahlia, on the other hand, is a travesty. She keeps stepping on his feet, and their dance teacher thinks she's going to embarrass her whole family at the party. So, no pressure, bestie. After their lesson is finished, Dahlia is in a bit of a mood about how much she fumbled, so Roderick suggests they go do something else to cheer her up. For some reason, his best idea is to go horse riding. I guess if you're a noble, that's basically the same as taking your bikes for a ride. But he doesn't realize Dahlia has a huge fear of horses from one time when she was little and got thrown off one. Ever the gentleman, Roderick suggests they ride together on the same horse, which is actually super smooth of him because he's an expert rider and she's afraid. Dahlia spends the whole time clinging to him from behind. I see what you're doing, Prince Bowser. Roderick takes them somewhere that can only be reached on horseback with a beautiful hillside view of the palace. Some gardener told him about the place, which is the second or third time now Dahlia has heard about this person. The gardener said to visit the spot whenever he was having a hard time, to use the view to get rid of his negative thoughts. Wrapped up in the beauty of the moment, he starts to mention the possibility of him leaving, and then changes his mind at the last minute. You can see where this is going, can't you? He's not going to tell her until the very last moment, and Dahlia's going to be devastated. Ugh, I can't watch. On the way down, Roderick takes the path a little too fast, and his horse ends up tripping on a rock. Before she knows what happened, Dahlia has been thrown from the horse. The last thing she sees is Roderick reaching out for her, and then nothing. When she opens her eyes, the guards are all around them. Roderick is collapsed beside her, his body curled around hers to protect her from the impact. Oh no! What happened? Did he take the fall for her? Dahlia calls his name, but he's unresponsive. And above his eye, there's a single dribble of blood from some kind of cut. The guards speed them back to the Bowser Manor, where Dahlia waits by his bedside until he wakes up. None of their injuries seem serious, and already both of them have been treated by a doctor for minor cuts and scrapes. But clearly, the shock of the incident has left the young Avalon princess a bit shaken. While he's on bed rest, Dahlia visits the Bowser family every day to take care of her best friend. Every morning he insists that he's totally fine, which he very clearly is. I mean, how bad could his injuries have been? He had like one scrape. Regardless, Dahlia is unrelenting. One morning, she walks in to find the Duke Bowser by his bed with his hand raised as if he's about to slap his son. Dahlia doesn't think. She puts herself between the two and boldly stands her ground, even when the Duke challenges her. He even threatens to hit her too, but she's way too smart for that. She starts talking sweetly about how worried her family would be if she came home with a single scratch on her body, and what a shame it would be if her father stopped trading with the Bowser family. Atta girl, Dahlia! That's the way to get him. She manages to fend him off, but after that, the Duke won't let her visit very frequently. And even on the rare occasion that Roger comes out, he's very distant and seems to be avoiding her. Dahlia asks once or twice if anything is the matter, but the poor kid has got so good at masking that by now, it's impossible to tell what's really going on beneath the surface. Oh dear, something bad is coming. You can just tell. Finally, the day of Roderick's party arrives. Dahlia is all dressed up in her pretty pink gown, but can't find the birthday boy anywhere. She's a little worried he hasn't fully recovered, but gets distracted when her dad asks her to wait in the guest room while he talks to the adults. She's been there all of 2 seconds when the man of the hour arrives. And boy, does he look dapper! Seriously, look at that outfit! Give his stylist a raise immediately. He walks straight over to her and asks her to dance. Dahlia can tell something is wrong. His face looks all red, but Roderick insists that he's fine. She tries to protest, but he clenches his fists. If they don't dance now, there won't be another opportunity, he says. Dahlia is just worried she'll step on his feet or embarrass herself in front of their guests. She doesn't seem to realize the weight of his words, what he's truly saying. But one way or another, she goes along with it. She takes his hand, allowing herself to be led to the dance floor, even though her mind is racing. I can't help but feel sympathy for her, honestly. Who would want to dance in front of so many nobles when you know you've got 2 left feet? I sure as heck wouldn't. The music starts to play, and Roderick leads her assuredly, smiling at her the whole time. And what do you know? She dances perfectly. The audience applauds them both, and before Dahlia even knows what's happened, it's all over. She confesses to Roderick that she gets nervous in front of strangers. She could never have done that without him at her side. Then she goes on to talk about how they can dance together at other parties and get better every time. Yeah, you see Roderick's face? I don't know if you're going to get another chance, bestie. After a moment of silence, both kids suddenly talk over one another. It seems like Roderick might have been about to admit what's on his mind, but Dahlia insists on speaking first, because of course she does. She gives him a gift, his birthday present, a beautiful old-fashioned stopwatch. And get this, it has the date they first met engraved on it. How romantic is that? It's just as heartbreaking as it is heartfelt. And Roderick knows there will never be a better opportunity to be honest. So he tells her, then and there, that he's leaving. At long last, the day has come, and Dahlia's fears have come true. The Duke returned to the capital with his mistress and immediately asked his wife to return to the north. The Duchess stood her ground and demanded that the mistress return from whatever hole she crawled out of first, and eventually he gave in. Honestly, Dahlia isn't stupid. She had a hunch that something like this was coming, and besides, she read the book, remember? Although Roderick hasn't given her any idea of when he'll return, she remembers from the plot that he's about to endure a lot of hardship. In the original story, they won't return to each other's sides for another 5 years, when war breaks out and the story really begins. Before leaving, the Duchess sent an invitation to the Avelyns requesting to see Dahlia one last time. She and her mother come to visit, but Roderick isn't there. So she goes to seek him out, since she has a feeling he'll be in a secret spot, the inside of a hollow tree. Just as she expected, he's sitting there, sulking. At first, he tells her to go away, but she's obviously not going to leave. Instead, she starts talking about the first time they met. That manages to get him talking. He even admits his first impression of her wasn't great. Well, of course it wasn't. She literally misgendered him. But as Dahlia points out, they probably wouldn't have ended up such good friends if she hadn't made him cry that day. She asks him to write often and thanks him for being her friend. That's when Roderick starts crying. He falls into her and quietly says he doesn't want to leave her. Oh, guys, stop! I'm gonna cry. This is so sad. Who knows when they're going to meet again? I guarantee whoever comes back in 5 years won't be the same Roderick we know and love. Dahlia must be thinking the same thing. Before getting in the carriage, she warns him that there's a lot of hardship ahead. Whenever it gets too tough to bear, she says, he has to cry. Sounds kind of weird, but I guess she's trying to say don't bottle it up. She gives him a handkerchief and promises that when it gets wet, she'll come and see him. Kind of a weird pact, but the gesture is sweet. And with that, she leaves. The unbreakable pair have been split. Of course, Dahlia is quick to write him letters before he's even arrived up north. The first few days without him, she's so bored that she kind of just sleeps the whole time. Her and Roderick used to do everything together, and she literally has no other friends. For Dahlia, this whole thing kind of just sucks. Her parents are a little worried, so they decide to organize a gathering of other children in the hopes that she'll make some new friends. But she assures Roderick that no one will be as close to her as he is. Roderick's reply is pretty stark in comparison. His life is ruthless. All he does is study and train, day in and day out. But he's trying his best, hoping that if he does well and fulfills his duties, he'll be able to return to her soon. He's such a pure-hearted kid. But I don't think that nasty Duke is going to let him back anytime soon. Meanwhile, Dahlia has started being sociable with the other noble children of her age. It seems tiring, and she hasn't found anyone she really clicks with yet. But next spring, her birthday is coming up, so she leaves a not-so-subtle hint in her next letter that if he's bored, he should spend some time trying to think of a birthday gift for her. I love this girl. She never misses an opportunity for presents. The Duchess Bowser helps him pick out a dress, but Roderick's personal present is a hair tie he picked himself. Of course, she absolutely loves it. Though I have a feeling she would have liked anything Roderick picked. She promises to wear it every day and wishes that on her next birthday they can see each other again. In their letters, both kids express a longing for the other that is far more mature and romantic for their age. Roderick is starting to imagine how different he'll be when they next meet. Maybe he'll be taller or bigger than she remembers. Dahlia doesn't like that idea at all. Like all little kids, she wants to be taller than him so that she has the upper hand. One day, she floats the idea of coming to the Duke's estate to visit for his birthday. But after that, there are no letters for a while. Eventually, he writes back, explaining that his father found out about their communication and took away all his letters. He says if the Duke found out that the two kids wanted to meet, he would be locked in his room. So it sounds like a no on the whole birthday visit plan. I mean, what did she expect? A rose-petal path to the north? The Duke we know would never allow that. They try and try again to organize a way to see each other. But as the years pass, it becomes clearer and clearer that they have no power against their parents. The situation at the Bowser estate gets worse and worse, and it becomes more difficult for Roderick to get his letters through. In the end, he sends one final letter, knowing it may be his last. Dahlia sends one too, addressed to a different name in the hopes that it will get through to him. She tells him not to worry and asks him not to forget her. Everything will be better someday, and they will see each other again, no matter what it takes. Which is true. At least, according to the book, it will be. But Dahlia also knows exactly what he's going through right now. How his mother is slowly losing grip of her sanity in the face of her husband's adultery. At first, when they went up north, the Duchess and Duke would have quarreled far less. For a while, Roderick had some hope that they might live in peace. But then the Duke betrayed his wife, bringing home his mistress, who was heavily pregnant by now. It didn't break the Duchess. Not at first. She did her best to stay strong for her son, as all mothers try to do. But then all hell broke loose when she was framed for attempting to kill the baby with poison. One of the maids told the Duke that his wife had ordered her to place a small amount of powder in the mistress's drink every day, which would not only harm the baby but also kill the mother. The Duchess was shocked. She knew her husband was a villain, but had no idea that he would believe such a thing, and even worse, imprison her for it, without even giving her a fair trial or any kind of investigation. In the end, the mistress had a miscarriage, and so all the rumors seemed to be confirmed. Roderick was the only one who stood by her side, knowing that his mother wouldn't hurt a fly. Slowly, after being thrown in a cell and refused visitors, the Duchess began to lose her mind. One time, Roderick went to visit her, and she confused him for the Duke. That's so sad! No child should have to watch their parents slip away like that. After some time, Roderick was no longer allowed to visit his mother. Supposedly, she was put on medication to help her mind heal, but he had no proof of that. Communication with Dahlia was cut off, and he couldn't even trust the maids who took care of him. So it's no stretch to say that within a couple of years, Roderick was left completely and utterly alone. Eventually, one of the butlers was kind enough to hand over Dahlia's final letter. In it, she wishes him well despite all the hardships, tells him it's not his fault, and reminds him to always just let it out when it all gets a bit much. Yeah, thanks, Dahlia, but I think if Roderick took that advice, he'd be crying every day. However, the encouragement in her letter gives him the strength to finally approach his father, in the hopes of clearing his mother's name. He walks straight into his office and says right away that the Duchess is not the kind of person to use poison. They both know that. The Duke seems completely unmoved, and calmly replies that anyone's nature will change under pressure. He conveniently ignores the fact that the pressure in this situation is him and his adultery. But anyway, Roderick tries a different tactic, assuring his father that he visited her often. If she was planning something, he would have been the first person to know. Again, his father shoots down this idea immediately. Apparently, he doesn't think his kid capable of noticing anything and thinks he's foolish for trusting his mother in the first place. Yikes! He really is a nasty guy, this Duke. Then he pulls out a little vial of poison, laying it out for Roderick to look at. It was found in his mother's room, he says, as if there's no way someone could have just planted it there. Roderick insists that when he last visited the Duchess, he didn't see anything like that in her room, not on the shelves where it was supposedly found. And he points out, even if it was his mother's, why the heck would she leave it somewhere so obvious? Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. The Duke must think everyone around him is stupid. What kind of criminal would leave the biggest piece of evidence out in the open like that? Roderick begs his father for time and resources to find the real criminal. After all, his mistress really did have a miscarriage, so clearly someone is out to get them. But the Duke will hear none of it. He comes straight out and says that he doesn't care who really did it. The point is, the Duchess has a reason to harm their family, so he decided to make an example out of her. After all, if someone that close to the Duke can be disposed of so easily, what could happen to Roderick, his own son? Oh my god, that is evil! This guy can't be human. How could you say that to your child? He even makes fun of Roderick, saying that he's become more like an Evelyn than a Bowser. What he needs is a bit of re-education, the Duke says. And then he says something truly chilling. Hasn't Roderick ever wondered why all the Bowser Dukes have been so alike? How they all end up acting so inhuman and cruel? He throws his son over to a pair of guards and tells him with a terrifying smile that soon, he will be just the same. Okay, this is actually a little scary. What kind of messed up family is this? What kind of person openly admits that they're cold and inhuman and then goes ahead and makes their kid the same? This guy is seriously twisted. Roderick is thrown to the ground in a small dark cell as the doors close before him. Initially, he can't see very much. The first thing he notices is the smell. Kind of fishy, like rotting carcasses. That's because it is. That's right, the Duke Bowser just threw his 12-year-old son into a dead body dump. A little cell with all the corpses that are difficult to dispose of. I'm not sure what kind of character building this is supposed to be. Isn't something like this more likely to make a kid go crazy than cold? Poor Roderick is already freaking out. After all, he has no idea how long he's got to stay here. It could be a few hours or a few months. With the Duke in charge, nothing is impossible. It's not long before Roderick is banging on the doors, begging his father to forgive him. He calls for his mother, for the knight who trained him, his servants, anybody. But he hears nothing, no sound of footsteps or key in the door. So he starts calling out for Dahlia instead. I guess he's hoping that she'll keep her promise, to come and see him when the handkerchief is wet. But even Dahlia can't save him now, not in that horrible, dark little prison. After a while, as you might expect, he stops banging on the door and asking for help. As the days slip by like water, it becomes easier and easier to stand the smell. Soon, Roderick is even grateful for the cell. In there, he has no mother or father to worry about, no bickering family members or injustice to fight. When the knights return for him, Roderick is quiet and limp. He can't even remember the names he was calling for anymore or why he was holding on to that handkerchief. As they pull him away, he drops it in the blood and leaves it behind without a second glance. Damn! I thought this manhwa was about princesses and fairy tale romance. When did everything get so dark? The servants start to gossip about the state of the Bowser home. The Duchess is going mad, and the Duke is deliberately torturing his son, who has become hardened and cold just like his father. Roderick begins to find the everyday cycle of life boring, so it almost seems like he's asking for it when his father suffers an attack. He runs in to find blood everywhere, his face in ruins as his mistress weeps over his wounded body. And what does Roderick do? He just laughs, like a total psychopath. I guess that's what he's become now. Let's hope Dahlia isn't expecting her old playmate back, because I have a good feeling that kid is gone forever. Speaking of Dahlia, one day she wakes up crying after a dream that her father was called away by the royal family to fight in the war. That doesn't happen in the original novel, so she can't figure out why she keeps dreaming it. The war itself isn't due to start just yet, but since the story takes place a few years after the war ended, Dahlia has no idea when it will start and what will actually happen. All she knows is that it lasts for nearly a decade and that they are victorious in the end. But a lot can happen in a decade. In a mad sort of mission, she starts writing down every detail she can remember from the original novel to try to get more information about the coming conflict. The best clue she gets is that the Empire could have won far earlier than they originally did if they hadn't been so ravaged by disease. So Dahlia dedicates all her time from then on to finding more clues, gathering any information involving diseases and doing her best to find a cure. That's a woman in STEM, all right! Good for you, girl! But throughout all of this, she continues to have horrific dreams about what might happen in the future. Her parents, noticing how hard she's been working, encourage their daughter to take a break and not overdo things, which is easy for them to say. They're not the ones having prophetic visions of future atrocities. Soon, news arrives down south of the attack on the Duke. He has been injured for half a month, and there's no sign of improvement. Obviously, this is bad news for the family, but it's also bad news for the Empire at large. You see, the Duke Bowser is in a unique position at the northern border of the Empire. It's his responsibility to protect the people from the monsters and barbarians beyond the border. And with the Duke wounded and half their legion eliminated from a battle with the monsters, things are not looking good. The nobles are trying to decide whether to donate more money to the family or if they should pull out and abandon the Bowsers. It seems like all of Dahlia's work and investigation so far has been building up to this moment. She approaches her father, knowing that he's going to call a formal meeting about the Bowser family soon. So she asks if she can attend herself, which seems like a long shot if you ask me. I mean, we all know Dahlia is clever, but who would let a random noble's daughter walk into a meeting full of generals and dukes to decide the fate of the Empire? I probably wouldn't. But as ever, Avalon is nothing if not obsessed with his daughter, so it probably won't surprise you that he agrees to let her attend. The Avalon family is known for their merchant background, so Dahlia understands that the vassals won't assist the Bowser family out of mere sympathy. During the meeting, she presents all the evidence and research she has gathered, proving that nearly half of the kingdoms have allied with Roandel, the Empire's enemy, and confidently states that a war is likely to break out in a few years. As expected, everyone thinks that she's just overthinking, since they believe that even if more kingdoms unite, they are no match for their empire, which our girl acknowledges. However, she encourages them not to disregard the possibility, and if it does happen, she knows that the House Bowser will be a great help. They believe that the chance of a war breaking out is low, so they think that if they can help the Bowsers now, they might just face a huge loss. But who says they'll offer their help without expecting something in return? Of course, Dahlia has something in mind to gain as well, and that instantly draws everyone's interest. She happily mentions that they will request authority over the Bowser Guard. House Avalon has never been involved in a war, but House Bowser has many seasoned knights. If they assist the Bowsers, they will help them recover, and if they end up winning the war, Dahlia boldly claims that they'll share half the glory. Surprisingly, these grown-ups take a child's advice to heart and decide to take a chance. The only catch is that they don't know whether the House Bowsers will grant them military power. It is not supposed to be easy, considering that they are asking for authority over House Bowser's central force in exchange for financial support. But Dahlia trusts Roderick will not perceive this as a threat. She said what she said, and yup, Roderick just accepted her proposal without a second thought. This totally triggered all the vassals of House Bowser, and you could feel their pride taking a major hit. I'm so relieved this cutie hasn't totally lost it. Most noble families have turned their back on them, so if they have any other solution, then he is ready to hear them. But all he gets is straight up shade about how he's just like his mom, who's got zero dignity. Wild! This triggers him to wreck the table with his magic-infused sword because, in this family, it's all about who's got the power. By proving his strength, he makes it clear that they have to follow his lead. That's right, let them know who's in charge. Dahlia is thrilled to receive Roderick's letter accepting her offer, so now all they need to do is send supplies to the north. Next on her plan is to meet someone in a very shabby place. She bangs on the door, and when a freckled lady with red hair opens it, our girl straight up flexes her insane wealth. 120 million gold. No biggie. Hestia Eustace is a gifted person, and in the novel, she'll be the first to discover a cure for the Empire's plague, and then takes on the position of head healer for the Imperial family. But she's really obsessed with money. After graduating early with top grades from the Imperial Academy, she decided to take a job at Count Jorbin's pharmaceutical laboratory. However, Count Jorbin becomes envious of Hestia, who is more brilliant than him, so he steals all her medicine formulas and kicks her out. Dahlia then persuades Hestia that if she helps her, she can give her more gold, and given the girl's obsession with money, they continue their conversation inside her home. Dahlia gets straight to the point, knowing that Hestia has been researching a contagious disease that her late grandfather was working on. Dahlia also knows Count Jorbin has blocked all investments, which is why she has temporarily stopped her research. Dahlia shows Hestia a gold-filled bag, offering to fund both her research and monthly living expenses, and guarantees that if she discovers a cure, she will provide Hestia with the best laboratory in the Empire, as well as a noble title, so that even Count Jorbin will be unable to disrespect her. Seeing the crest of the House of Avalon stunned Hestia, prompting Dahlia to properly introduce herself and emphasize her intention to invest in her, which excites Hestia so much that she takes Dahlia's hands, declaring that she is her master and assures her that she will develop a cure within 5 years. Soon after, when Dahlia turns 17, they get a letter from the Imperial Palace, and the war begins much more quickly than in the novel. The day has come for her father to say goodbye before heading to the war. Dahlia wraps her arms around her father, who's feeling a bit guilty about putting such a big responsibility on her due to his absence, and she reassures him that she will safeguard Avalon. Meanwhile, her mother, filled with sadness, begs her husband to ensure his safety, and he embraces his family, prompting that he will be back as quickly as possible. Dahlia then watches her father's carriage leave, hoping for his safe return. It's been a year and a half since the war started, and the knights at the Imperial garrison finally identified the commander in charge of the Allied kingdoms and decided to finish him off quickly. So, the Crown Prince, who's the commander-in-chief of Hipperonia's Imperial army, asks anyone who can bring him the commander's head. Out of nowhere, 18-year-old Roderick Bowser steps up and volunteers, which causes the knights to react because he is too young, and the task is too dangerous for him. Goodbye to the long-hair cutie, and hey there, handsome sleek boy. However, the Crown Prince stops them all and asks Roderick directly if he can do it, and he says yes without hesitation. Despite all the doubts, when they all see Roderick walking back, holding the commander's head, the knights react favorably, proving that the House of Bowser is still powerful. Duke Avalon is totally over how everyone is celebrating when not too long ago they were all convinced Roderick was a goner. He decides to step outside for some fresh air when he is taken aback to see Rod hiding and bleeding. Dad-in-law to the rescue! When everyone first gathered for the war, Duke Avalon was taken aback to see Roderick again. Unlike before, when he was just a fragile little kid who always smiled with Dahlia, now he kills without any emotion. His eyes have that cold look, almost as if they were empty, which reminds him of Duke Bowser. Duke Avalon made several attempts to chat with Roderick, but the boy always appeared a bit uneasy. However, tonight, he can't bring himself to look away as he sees Roderick in distress. He supports him in walking, and as a dad himself, he gently reminds Roderick that it's perfectly fine to lean on others when life becomes difficult. He then mentions how Roderick and Dahlia are alike, both keeping their burdens to themselves. This discovery brings a warm smile to Rod's face as he finds a connection with Dahlia. Excuse me, sir, if you're hurting, then why you gotta be so cute? Anyway, I'm really happy he didn't forget Dahlia. It's hard to believe it's been a year and a half already, and the war is still going on. Our girl is facing her own war too, as she works tirelessly from morning to afternoon, handling all the duchy tasks. In the evenings, she dedicates her time to checking with Hestia about the cure. There's just one major problem after the cure is ready, and that's figuring out how to share the news with everyone. She can't simply announce that she has a cure for a new disease. While some might see her as a hero, others are likely to be suspicious. In fact, they might even think her family played a role in spreading the illness. She really needs to figure out how to distribute the cure without raising any eyebrows. But it's tough to come up with ideas when she's buried under a mountain of documents to sort through. Just then, her father's secretary, Lowell Kidman, advises her to check the chief secretary candidates' resumes and reminds her to make her choice today. All heirs of House Avalon require a chief secretary, as they are required to study abroad. Their secretary will assist them and continue to serve them until they become the head of the house. She's feeling a bit down that, due to the war, she can't study abroad. Even so, she still takes the time to check the resumes, and only one applicant named Jaren Hayward seems familiar. But what truly stands out is how great he is. After graduating as valedictorian in economics at the Imperial Academy, he worked as an investment analyst for the Rubabel Corporation. This company isn't your typical corporation. It's one of the most well-known merchant companies. Therefore, working as a strategist there means that the applicant is a genius. Her confusion grows as she wonders why someone as remarkable as him would want to work for her. Curious, she turns to the next page to find out why he applied, but all she finds is what appears to be a love letter where he declares his undying love to the woman who has his heart. Oh my gosh, this is that boy whose first love is Rod in a dress! 19-year-old Jaren Hayward's first love heartache had such an impact on him that he devoted himself to his studies. As if fate were working in his favor, he learned that the House of Avalon is looking for a chief secretary for their heir, Dahlia. Jaren totally gets that the lady is probably struggling since her dad is off at war and she's stuck handling all the duchy stuff. But the way he's picturing Dahlia with black hair is just so funny. He believes that this is his time to become someone Dahlia can rely on. So who is going to tell him that his first love has gone to war? Jaren finally arrives at the Avalon Duchy, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves as he prepares to see his first love after 8 years. When the door opens, revealing the stunning Dahlia with her rose gold hair and crimson eyes, he can only manage to say, "Who are you?" The room is filled with Dahlia's laughter as Jaren turns all red from embarrassment after they both cleared up the misunderstanding. After having a bit of fun with the seaweed, Dahlia asks him if he still wants to continue with the interview. When he responds with a yes, they dive right into it. As expected, Jaren answered all of her questions with ease, which is a good sign. So she decided to give him a not-so-hypothetical question. If a plague spreads during a war and she happens to have the cure, what would his plan be to spread it secretly? As a strategist, he believes they should share the cure recipe because if it is an infectious condition, huge quantities of the drug will be required. But if she wants to make money, small amounts will be produced and sold exclusively for a high price. However, when Dahlia states that she's not doing this for money, he realizes that this is not just an interview question, which is actually preferable because it may help her find the solution faster. Jaren then advises her that they build a ghost organization, which is a firm that does not belong to any country, requiring them to grow it on their own without assistance. Similar to how major businesses set up slush funds. However, getting this started requires a significant amount of capital since they'll need to purchase small-scale businesses from various countries. Jaren happens to have plenty of connections, whether from the academy or from his time at Rubabel. Dahlia is surprised by how he planned everything out, so she asks if he already knew she would bring it up, which makes him react. Something about his attitude makes her less trusting of him, and she is now wondering if Jaren knows the future as well, or if he predicted the war or something. However, when Jaren covers his face while admitting that he always wanted to help her one day and how he tried his best to prepare something for her, Dahlia realizes that he has been in love since he was little. She even playfully teases him that she will introduce him to Roderick next time. Anyway, if money is their only problem, then our girl is totally set, because the moment she stepped into this novel, she was all about those investments. So yeah, she's basically a billionaire now. We are time skipping again, and it's been 4 years since the war. The Hipperonia Empire is doing well, having successfully brought all the allied nations to surrender. All that's left is to take down the Roendel, but this leader nation is quite a tough opponent that the Empire is finding challenging. The envoy they sent failed, so Duke Goldman's second son, River, suggests that they send another one as he is confident that they can persuade Roendel to give up. Rod, on the other hand, has a different idea. Because the Rohendel fortress is surrounded by a mountain range, they should have their mages hurl fireballs, turning the fortress into a sea of fire. This sparks an argument between the two, as River considers Rod's proposal to be inhumane because it includes burning down innocent people's homes. But Rod claims that doing so will allow them to end the war in just one day. Oh no, it seems like my boy is not scoring any points with Dad-in-law right now. After Duke Avalon helped Rod with his injury last time, they started talking about their families. Since then, the Duke has seen that Rod is becoming impatient to wrap up the war, and is even putting himself at risk. All that conversation probably made him miss Dahlia like crazy. The plague is at last here and is spreading rapidly. Duke Avalon is more concerned about his family than himself. And just then, Rod arrives with a package from Dahlia. Rod can't take his eyes off the package, so father-in-law has no choice but to open the box right in front of him. Inside, there's a letter from Dahlia along with a so-called health tonic for him. They did it! They made the cure! Following that, rumors about the cure circulated, and the majority of those who contracted the disease got cured as a result. This leads the Crown Prince to suspect that this is part of Rowandel's plot. So he investigates and discovers the company that created the treatment. They offer to hand over the recipe cure in return for the mine in the Felitos mountain ranges, which are known to be empty wastelands. The Crown Prince assigns Rod to oversee the meeting with the trade company, and if he finds any questionable activity, he orders him to kill everyone involved. Oh, are they finally meeting after so many years? But for real, the Crown Prince has some trust issues. My girl is saving lives here, you know? Rod doesn't blame the Crown Prince for being cautious, but he wonders why he put him in charge of this when Duke Avalon is supposed to be in charge of negotiations. He then recalls the tonic Dahlia provided the Duke, leading Rod to believe that this has something to do with her. This prompts him to instruct his knights to disguise themselves as assassins, and during the negotiation, he directs them to kill all of the Crown Prince's men in case Dahlia is truly involved. Wow, he isn't even sure yet he's doing it all to protect his girl! The negotiation is over, and it appears that our leads did not meet because Dahlia is shocked to learn from Jaren that her father did not attend, but Roderick did. She appears serious until she reminds Jaren that their company has negotiated with his first love. She just won't let the poor guy forget his first love. Perhaps until they're old. On a serious note, Jaren asks Dahlia why she wants the mine in Felitos, and she simply responds she needs the wasteland. Yeah, because that mine is actually a money land because it's full of magic ores, which the female protagonist discovered in the story, but they do say finders keepers, right? Before Jaren leaves, he warns Dahlia that someone may be helping them because someone has been eliminating the Crown Prince's men. Thus, he suspects it is someone who opposes the prince. After a year and a half, they finally made their way to the Rowendell fortress, and Roderick was the one who fearlessly beheaded the king. My sweet boy looks so relieved that the war is finally over, and yay, Duke Avalon is finally back home with his wife and daughter. All of her hard work and preparation paid off. Her dad and Rod are both safe, and the epidemic has been successfully managed. The next day, Dahlia receives an invitation letter to celebrate the Empire's victory, and she can't help but think of Roderick, whom she hasn't seen in around 10 years. She drops into her bed, feeling anxious about whether things will get super awkward between them at the party. Today is the day, and even though the red ribbon Roderick gave her is worn out, she decides to wear it as a hair decoration. The Duke and Duchess Avalon are really aging like fine wine as they arrive at the banquet, while our girl in her white and red dress looks extra sexy and cute. Dahlia can't handle the crowd, so she settles down on an empty bench. Soon, Jaren approaches her, and wow, black and gold really suits him. He lets her know that the Crown Prince is still looking into their organization, but keeps running into obstacles thanks to that person who's lending them a hand. They then hear ladies gushing about Roderick, prompting Jaren to casually comment that Dahlia must be nervous to see her friend again after such a long time. But this makes her tease him again, saying that it must be him who is nervous now that the master of his heart has returned. Just then, Roderick's name is finally announced, and he looks absolutely regal in that white and blue outfit. He pays no attention to anyone else and heads straight to finally hug the person he misses the most, Dahlia. I didn't expect him to be so blunt, and I love it. She was surprised to see the cutie pie all grown up and manly now, which makes her feel a bit awkward that she starts addressing him formally. So Rod quickly asks her to stop that. He then extends his hand and invites her to dance, but as they twirl together, neither of them feels brave enough to speak first. Well, our guy here has that blank expression, plus he is now tall and charming, so I get why she feels that way. Dahlia isn't quite sure what to say. Perhaps asking how he is or discussing his contributions to the war would be nice? Maybe she could apologize for not visiting him or ask if he still has the handkerchief she gave him. But in the end, she chooses to talk about something completely random. Feet. She appears a bit shy as she tells him that she's not stepping on his feet anymore since she has danced a lot and feels more at ease now. She then asks if he still remembers her promise to show off her dance skills when they meet again, and she feels so surprised when, at last, Rod shows her that familiar smile, the very same one he wore in their childhood days. Dahlia relaxes and beams at him, realizing that he's still the same best friend she's always cherished. There you go! My baby's finally reunited! Dahlia is pleasantly surprised when Rod notices the red ribbon in her hair, so she lightly asks if he still remembers it. This makes him shyly say that he does, since he chose it himself, which brings a big smile to our girl as she realizes he remembers something from years ago. He twirls her around with a smile, complimenting how lovely the ribbon looks on her. When the music stops, they are approached by a charming blondie, River Goldman, who Dahlia recognizes as the best second male lead of all romance novels and has stayed single throughout his life. This was the good boy who had a little disagreement with Rod during the war. She is now beaming and waiting for Rod to introduce her to River, but uh-oh, my guy looks annoyed right now. So she decides to speak with River herself and make an introduction. The charming gentleman kisses the back of her hand and introduces himself with a warm smile, while Dahlia asks him to just call her by her name, which he does with a hint of shyness. She thinks he's really cute and handsome, and the fact that he's a second son makes him seem like the perfect husband for her, so she's now considering him as a potential partner. Oh, I totally forgot that our leads aren't in love yet. At least Dahlia isn't. Dahlia is all smiles while chatting with River, but Rod isn't in favor of it, so he interrupts their conversation, causing River to apologize and step away, leaving the two alone. Our girl is really upset and goes straight to Rod to talk about how rude he was to River. Rod just responds by asking if she likes River so much that she can't stop smiling, and then he makes a comment about her standards dropping. I'm supporting Rod in this situation. Someone is getting jealous already. The two head outside, where Dahlia is trying to explain that she's just being polite with River. Meanwhile, our cute Rod has his arms crossed and is sulking because he doesn't believe her. She keeps sharing her take, and eventually she acknowledges that perhaps it is indeed her fault for neglecting her friend, whom she hasn't seen in years. With a playful tone, she declares that she won't be swayed by anyone else when the most handsome man is right beside her. She keeps complimenting Rod, highlighting how much more capable and esteemed he is compared to River, all while wearing that sweet, apologetic smile, which makes him give in and forgive her. Now that's done, Dahlia brings up that his mom, Duchess Bowser, is actually staying with them. The Avalon family welcomed the Duchess into their home, understanding that she had been unfairly accused. Despite her struggles, her mother did everything she could to support her recovery and reassure her that she was in a safe place. I'm totally glad they took action, and Dahlia's mom is just wonderful. A great wife, an amazing mother, and a fantastic friend. As time went on, Duchess Bowser slowly became her usual self again, but Dahlia couldn't help but feel concerned because Roderick seemed to have forgotten about his mom and never looked for her. But looking at his expression now makes her think otherwise, so she keeps sharing about how his mom enjoys going for walks these days and has taken up a flower arranging hobby. She doesn't want to pressure him into seeing his mom, but she does want to offer him the choice. So she mentions that if he's curious about how his mom is doing, he's welcome to visit the Avalon estate. Today, Dahlia is excited to show Rod the Avalon garden and how it remains just as beautiful as it was before. His mom then arrives and is so delighted to see how much he's grown while she gently plays with his hair. With that warm smile, she asks if they can go for a walk together, making Rod look at her with those tired yet hopeful eyes before saying yes. Meanwhile, Dahlia watches the mother and son with a sense of relief and quietly steps away, giving them the space to reconnect. After a bit, Rod finishes his chat with his mom and goes to find Dahlia, spotting her sitting on a bench. The two of them decide to take a walk, and she shares that she didn't expect him to actually come since he never asked about his mom. Rod shares that he got busy, and she understands, considering he had to take care of the Bowser family for his father and also had to fight in the war. The mood is just right, with those pink skies and Dahlia's hair dancing in the wind, as she excitedly says how they should have fun while he's still in the capital. She might take him to some great restaurants, and she's also excited to introduce him to her friends, Hestia and Jaron. She takes his hand and hopes that their time together will help him lighten his burdens. She truly wants him to be happy, regardless of what path he chooses, and she is confident that she'll be there to support him. Our girl be saying such sweet things that she'll have all of us falling for her, and she expects Rod won't too? Rod is taken by surprise when Dahlia wraps her arms around his neck and leans in for a kiss. But friends, sorry to disappoint you, that part is merely a dream. He immediately sits up and flushes, questioning himself for having such a dream. He looks particularly haggard today as a result of not being able to sleep for days following that dream. He blames it on the day Dahlia held his hand, but in his head it progressed into a kiss, prompting him to bang on the table during his meeting, forcing him to cover his red face right now. Ethan Miller, the 4th Division commander of the Bowser Guards, is a blunt gentleman who questions Roderick if his behavior is related to the rumors that he and Lady Dahlia are lovers. Meanwhile, Dahlia is being pestered by their vassals about getting a husband, and they even have a list of all suitable single noblemen in the Empire. They keep cornering her until she has no choice but to run away from them. She rushes to her mother's office and requests that the vassals cease pressuring her into marriage. Mommy finds this amusing, but she does tell her that it is common for her age to already have a fiancé. But she understands that her daughter is more focused on work than on men. She playfully squeezes Dahlia's face, knowing that she has high standards, and reassures her that she has no intention of just picking any random man for her. Dahlia feels a wave of relief, but then she suddenly freezes in confusion when her mom brings up Roderick. Sweetie, you better follow your mom, 'cause mothers know best, okay? Okay, good. Her mom once considered arranging their engagement, and she even discussed it with Duchess Bowser. However, Dahlia just can't picture having Rod as her husband because it would feel really awkward for her. Mommy shares that the engagement was called off before they could really take it in due to the situation with the Bowser family. She reassures her daughter that there's no rush and believes she'll find her soulmate when the time is right. Jaren and Hestia are in Dahlia's office now, where she's showing them the portraits of her potential suitors that her vassals have selected. She's asking for their help because she really doesn't want to marry just any guy. When the two ask what her ideal type is, Dahlia quickly responds that it's her parents and starts sharing the story of how her mom, who was meant to marry a prince, fell in love with her dad, a knight assigned to escort her. They eventually fell in love, and since their relationship is forbidden, her dad decided to become a duke, which he had previously turned down, so he can steal the prince's fiancée. Fortunately, the heavens were on their side and they happily married, and their love brought fruit in the form of Dahlia, the stunning and talented woman. Jaren and Hestia look so done with her and only want to know her ideal man in detail, prompting our girl to begin enumerating how she wants someone attractive and sweet. She should be his first lover and more. Basically just Rod, but she doesn't know yet. Jaren has to stop her yapping and remind her that no one will ever match her description. Dahlia wonders what their ideal type is, and Hestia responds simply, someone rich, whereas Jaren is looking for someone pure and innocent with long black hair and large eyes. Just say you want a female version of Roderick, we won't judge. Anyway, Jaren mentions the rumors circulating in the capital that Dahlia and Roderick are in love, which causes her to spill her tea before questioning where this rumor is coming from. Well, ma'am, you two kept dancing throughout the ball without changing partners. Jaren believes Roderick is a good choice, but Dahlia quickly cuts him off, declaring that they are only friends. She also notes that she cannot marry Roderick because he's the oldest son, making both of them heirs to their families, complicating the issues of their successors, prompting Jaren to suggest that they can have 2 babies, as if childbirth in this era is easy. She also mentions that she'll need to travel frequently for business, while Roderick will be stationed at the northern border. This means they'll become a long-distance couple, which isn't ideal for her because she wants a joyful life together with her soulmate. Dahlia is also confident that Roderick feels the same way and will dismiss the rumor as absurd. It doesn't matter if Rod likes her or not because she knows he thinks marriage is a burden. When they were kids, Rod shared his thoughts on marriage, saying it can lead to pain because there's always a chance that someone might change their mind, and that can hurt, just like what happened with his mom. He then expressed with a relieved tone how happy he was that he and Dahlia are friends, because no matter how many times they argue, they can always make up, which means they can stay together for a long time. This is when Dahlia decided to be the friend that Roderick can always count on. Wait, so he was the one who put her in the friend zone first? It seems like these two besties are in sync because Roderick is now letting his comrades know that the rumors aren't true. However, Ethan still thinks that maybe Lady Dahlia likes their commander since he has noticed how extra sweet she is to him. The others also mention that, from what they know, she is really selective and would even turn down young nobles who tried to approach her. They keep insisting on this, prompting Rod to tell them to stop. But he gets interrupted by this blunt, handsome man who confidently claims that Dahlia likes him. This thought immediately resonates in Rod's mind, but ultimately, he still believes it's impossible. He clearly states that he and Dahlia will never be lovers because he knows her better than anyone else, and that friend of his has really high standards. It's the kind of love that can only be found in novels. He still remembers how Dahlia was. So cute. Dahlia is at a party to interact with other guys, hoping to put the rumors about her and Rod to rest. But it seems like no one is brave enough to approach her at the moment. Everyone is definitely afraid of your guy. She's feeling annoyed because the guys are only giving her those sneaky looks, but no one is actually approaching her, so she thinks it's best to head home. However, she is really surprised to see River at the party. When he comes over, he explains that he didn't plan on coming, but with a blush on his face, he admits he came because he heard she would be here. This makes Dahlia feel so flustered, and with the fireworks behind her, her heart is bursting with colors as well as she realizes that she might have just found her soulmate. Dahlia and River enjoy a friendly chat, and she shares how her father has spoken highly of River's bravery and contributions during the war, which has left him feeling flattered. She also knows that he and River have had their disagreements, which River admits, but it seems he holds Roderick in high regard and admires how he became a swordmaster at such a young age. Dahlia proudly tells him that Rod is an outstanding guy, which causes River to smile and realize that she must know Rod better because they are childhood friends. She denies this, claiming that she hasn't spoken with Rod in 10 years and only recently reunited at the ball. But River disagrees, claiming that people dwell on memories, so even though they haven't been together for 10 years, he is certain that Rod still has some traits from back then. No, this guy seems like a genuinely kind guy. Can our girl have both? If not, give me River. As the two of them dance, Dahlia feels a sense of joy knowing that River is a good guy. But her mood shifts when he asks if she and Roderick are in a relationship, so she quickly denies this. Upon hearing this, River can't help but smile with relief, expressing how glad he is before saying his goodbye to her. Even after the party has ended, Dahlia still has questions as to why River said he was glad, leading her to assume that he is glad there is no relationship between her and Roderick. She's now squealing and hugging a pillow as Roderick sits there drinking tea, wondering whether she's gone insane. She is the one who bursts into his office out of nowhere to discuss the war merits that the House of Avalon should receive. But given how distracted she is, he suspects it's because of the rumors about them. Anyway, he urges her to be serious now and talk about business. But Darling simply responds it was an excuse to see him, making his heart skip a beat. Now I feel bad for Rod. She then asks whether he has already received a marriage proposal from the Imperial Palace, as she has heard that the Emperor wants him to become his son-in-law. She heard some rumors at the recent party, but it really dismays Rod that she only talks about marriage rumors involving others and not about the ones concerning the two of them. Noticing Dahlia's confusion, he stands up and mentions that he has a lot to take care of, suggesting that she should head out now too. Dahlia is now in the carriage, feeling a bit uneasy about whether she made a mistake. Then she starts to think that maybe Rod is really seeing someone, perhaps the female lead. That could explain why he seemed upset earlier. Maybe he's worried his partner might misunderstand his relationship with her. She decides to set it aside for now, since it's not the right time for the female lead to appear, but it's still really bothering her. Lowell shares with Dahlia that Count Jorbin is requesting the Avalon to invest in his new medicine, which her father is thinking about, although most of the vassals are opposed to it. You may have forgotten who Count Jorbin is, so to refresh your minds, he's the one who kicked Hestia out because he felt jealous of her incredible talent. After Dahlia comes up with an idea, she rushes to Hestia to see if she can make a better version of the medicine that Count Jorbin is working on. Dahlia holds Hestia's hands and reminds her of her promise to give her a title and the best research facility. Dahlia is excited to share that she can now fulfill one of her promises, so with a bright smile, she announces that Hestia will soon have a brand new research facility equipped with the latest technology. But there is a catch. She must create a new drug, and with a determined expression, Hestia swears not to sleep until she does. After that, Dahlia cheerfully tells Lowell that she will lend the Count the money with no interest, but with a playful smile, she adds that she'll take his pharmaceutical lab as collateral. Hestia is a cherished friend to Dahlia, as she was the one who created the cure that brought the war to an early end and saved her father from the disease. Now she feels like the right moment to make the Count pay for his actions. So wicked. Keep it up, darling! The plan is simple. Lend the Count the money and use his lab as collateral. She is confident that the Count will take the offer since there's no interest involved. He might believe that all he needs to do is sell his new medicine and pay her back, but that's when her evil plan comes into action. She'll ensure it won't sell since Hestia is set to launch a similar but better version of the medicine even before he can get his out to the market. Count Jorbin is almost certain to face bankruptcy because people might believe it's fake medicine, and just like that, Dahlia will take over his lab. She is absolutely thrilled and is already celebrating, scaring Jaren, and he believes she can make the devil cry as well. She then informs Jaren that she will meet with an insider who can provide information on what Count Jorbin is trying to create so that Hestia can get a heads up and create a better version of it. Dahlia and Lowell are meeting with the guy, and she discovers that the Count is creating a stimulant that helps relieve fatigue and can boost stamina. The informant even heard that the Count is claiming that after taking his medicine, the person can stay up all night without feeling tired, and he shares all the details in a dessert package as a clever disguise. As they leave the dessert shop, she bumps into River, who is there to pick up some treats because he's heard the shop has the best cake around. Dahlia shares that she's here to buy something too, but the reality is that this bakery is more than it seems. It's actually a secret hideout for informants. River feels a bit shy about inviting Dahlia for a chat, and she happily agrees. While they stroll, River shares that he had considered sending her a letter, but he feels a bit anxious about whether she would appreciate it if he reached out without a specific reason. This is making Dahlia feel so giddy inside because it means River has been thinking of her all this time. So even though she stutters, she lets him know that he has permission to write her whenever he wants, making this cutie blush. As they continue walking, Dahlia spots a shop featuring ribbon that closely resembles the red ribbon Rod gave her. River offers to buy the ribbon for her if she likes it, and she responds that she can just buy it with her own money. But here comes this poetic guy again with his comforting words. He mentions that when someone gives her a gift, it's filled with memories of that person, making it even more special. This leads Dahlia to give him a sweet smile as she carefully asks him to gift her with his memories, which leaves this bright sunny man a bit flustered. I'm all about Team Rod, but if they keep making River this adorable and such an excellent pick, I might just start shipping these two. Dahlia has been staring at the bracelet River gave her for I don't know how long, and she is now rolling on her bed, feeling butterflies in her tummy because he is gorgeous and sweet. Fortunately, she returns to her normal self after remembering that she has work to accomplish, which is to sell the medicine Hestia produced. Every one of the Bowser Guard's captains is truly the complete package. Lux, the captain of the 2nd Division, looks great with that long silver hair. Leona, the lady captain of the 3rd Division, definitely has a baddie vibe with her short red hair. And we can't forget Ethan, the handsome and straightforward captain of the 4th. Then there's Michelle, the lady captain of the 6th Division, who appears to be a sweetie on the outside. After introducing themselves to Dahlia, they all become serious, thinking she might be here to give them orders to take someone out. Whether it's an individual, a group, or even on a national scale, they're ready for anything. Dahlia is experiencing some culture shock, so she quickly shares that House Avalon has created a stimulant to help with fatigue, and she would love for the 4 of them, the incredibly popular Knights of Bowser, to help promote it. She then shows the catchphrase she wants them to use to promote the product, and it ends with a big smile and a wink, which leaves these poor knights extremely horrified, prompting them to ask for Roderick's help. Sorry guys, your commander has no power against Dahlia, and he orders them to pay attention to her while keeping a straight face. Before leaving, Dahlia gives Rod one of the stimulants and, with a smile, asks if he has time for her. She couldn't ask him last night because he made her leave, which made him go quiet before he apologized, but she interrupts him, as if to say it's not a big deal. With a beaming grin, she reminds him that they promised to spend time together and relax. Just like that, everything is back to normal, and Rod finally cracks that smile again. The captains get goosebumps seeing their commander smile, but they rush to him, believing that Dahlia has feelings for him and that he should make a move. Rod simply urges them to get lost and walks by them since seeing Dahlia smile earlier has turned him red and left him wondering why his heart goes doki doki. I'm switching ships again. Call me weak, but I love blushing boys. Today is the day they're going to spend some time together, or should I say, have a lovely date. Dahlia looks so soft and radiant while Rod is looking extra handsome in his suit and gloves. Today's coach lady is Leona, who is so cheerful as she compliments Dahlia's outfit. She almost lets slip that Rod did too, but she stops herself when she senses her commander giving her a glare. Dahlia is taken aback when Rod easily lifts her into the carriage, causing her to blush and even wonder if he could carry her in bridal style. To her eyes, Rod is still that same little kitten, but now she's beginning to see that he has grown into more of a strong and handsome black leopard. They arrive at the men's clothing store, and while Dahlia and Leona are happily picking out clothes for him, my boy, who isn't quite used to this, sits in the back looking a bit grumpy and asking them to stop. Our girl sweetly uses her charms to persuade Rod to try on more suits, and even brings up the time they played house, making him flinch. In the end, he gives in to her wishes once more. After shopping, the two head out for some tea and desserts, and Dahlia is feeling so happy right now, enjoying moments she had only wished for before. With a cheerful smile, she asks him if they can do this again next time, prompting Rod to return that smile as he replies that he would love to. He truly seems to be the happiest when he's with her, doesn't he? Cutie. She then wonders if he will wear the suit they bought today during the peerage ceremony, and when she hears that he will, she feels thrilled and confident that he will surely stand out since she is the one who chose it. As they chat about the ceremony, Rod glances at her, and after a brief pause, asks if she has a partner for the event. Her response shifts the mood as she reveals that she's actually going with River. His brows furrow as he can't believe she's going with another man instead of him. That definitely crushed his heart. You should have followed your captain's advice to make a move. Now it's too late. Dahlia playfully teases him about whether he's considering being her partner, completely unaware that she's hurting his feelings. He stops her, looking a bit grumpy, and mentions that he never asked about who she plans to go with. Dahlia feels confused again and wonders what she might have done wrong, especially since he was the one who started the topic. Today, while Dahlia is going about her usual work, she can't help but think about Rod's bright smile, something she hasn't seen in quite some time. She's not sure exactly why he got so upset, but she believes that if they go out again, he'll be back to his usual self. She is currently thinking about their next adventure, perhaps heading to the lake for some boating fun or visiting their family villa for a lovely picnic. I love how the roles have turned. Dahlia is the one doing the planning and Rod is so baby girl coded. Lowell happily bursts into her office to share the good news that Count Jorben has finally gone bankrupt. They quickly took his laboratory, and Hestia is now beaming with joy in her new space. She's especially thrilled that she was able to physically take down the Count with a little kick here and there. Hestia then shifts to a serious tone as she shares with Dahlia that during her work on their new medicine, she discovered that Count Jorben's product was actually drugs. This situation seems a bit suspicious because Dahlia believes that the Count is aware he'll eventually be caught, and his sponsors will likely get involved as well. Dahlia then gasps as she realizes this, thinking back to how the Count went to House Avalon to borrow money, which basically means he was trying to set them up for a trap. She jumps right into the investigation, but she hasn't really figured out who the mastermind is yet. She discovered that someone had been generously funding the Count, but then suddenly pulled out. Now she feels quite sure that someone is secretly and carefully targeting her family. She is now on the carriage with Jaren, who notices that she looks a bit tired. He kindly suggests she should take the anti-fatigue medicine, which makes her tease him again for being so adorable and caring about her. They are heading to the ceremony where she was meant to go with River, but instead, she finds herself with Jaren since the preparations for the peerage ceremony are taking a bit longer than expected. Jaren gives a confident smile, knowing that Rod will be so happy to see that Dahlia came with him instead of River. This confuses her, and he clicks his tongue, commenting on how clueless she is. I am feeling worn out because of Rod and River, so I'm going to take Jaren with me to find some peace. When they arrive, Dahlia is surprised by how luxurious this banquet is compared to usual. So when she sees Roderick, she immediately congratulates him on getting his title. But our baby girl here just crosses his arms, and his face clearly says he is not in the mood. Dahlia decides to introduce Jaren to him, but it's clear he's the reason Rod's in a mood, and he straight up asks who's that weed head she's with. He casually mocks her, wondering if River isn't good enough for her that she's also chilling with this dude he calls grassy-haired. Dahlia is puzzled by his behavior, but she quickly clarifies that Jaren is her chief secretary, which helps calm Rod a bit. Sadly, it's too late. Jaren's heart has been broken again. Sir, you don't need to be so mean. Rod remembers him, but before Jaren can introduce himself, he starts crying and runs away, leaving Dahlia feeling somewhat lost while Rod playfully calls him a coward as always. My baby just got totally roasted and got his second heartbreak. The ceremony has begun, and Duke Avalon is being honored for his contributions to the war, filling Dahlia with pride for her father. Next, River Goldman is granted a territory and given the title of Count, which makes Dahlia squeal at how handsome he is. The last one to be called is Roderick Bowser, and even though Dahlia isn't squealing or anything, her face is all red and her heart is going, ba-dum, ba-dum. Darling, what is this? It seems like she might be holding back her feelings for him, doesn't it? Rod receives a special sword that is traditionally passed down to the Imperial family, which makes everyone think that the Emperor is really trying to make Roderick part of the Imperial family. He also receives the title of Duke, making him one of the 3 Dukes of the Empire, which makes Dahlia feel like he has really moved far away from her. She feels a little surprised when Rod looks her way, so she beams at him and promises to do her best to be someone who can stand beside him. And Rod responds with a satisfied smile. After that happens, the party kicks off and Rod finds himself surrounded by nobles, while Dahlia can't help but feel concerned that he might have to head back to the north soon. Rod's eyes are focused solely on Dahlia, and when he sees her sad expression, he quickly approaches her and leans in, asking if she's not feeling well. But their chat is interrupted when an Imperial Knight tells Rod that the Emperor wishes to see him, making Dahlia wonder if this is about the Emperor wanting Rod to marry his daughter. Rod really doesn't want to leave Dahlia by herself, and he's concerned she might get the wrong idea about things. However, he feels he has no choice, so he kindly asks her to wait for him. Dahlia chooses to step outside for a breath of fresh air, feeling a bit tired of the gossiping crowd. She finds a cozy spot near the fountain, completely unaware that she's about to encounter an angel with a six-pack that will make her nose bleed. River quickly rushes over to her and offers a handkerchief before lifting her to place her gently in a chair, but Dahlia stops him and requests that he put on a shirt first. Yes, sir, very distracting. Now they're sitting on a bench, and River shares that he accidentally bumped into a servant, which resulted in wine spilling on his white suit. So he tried to handle it quietly near the fountain. After a while, her nose stops bleeding, but to her surprise, he gently pulls her to lean on him, suggesting that she should rest a bit more. River seems quite concerned that Dahlia is pushing herself too hard lately, which is why she experienced a nosebleed. Honestly, sir, her nose bled because of seeing your body. Anyway, she gets comfortable leaning on his shoulder as she admits that maybe she was indeed overworking herself. She mentions that she is still stuck in the same spot and not making any progress, which is something River can relate to, because there was a time when he also thought taking a break was only for failures. He looks at her and says that if she needs someone to lean on, and if she doesn't mind that it's him, he's available anytime. Dahlia takes a brave step and asks if he can stay longer, which brings a smile and a blush to River's face as he happily agrees. Could they just make River the bad guy so we can move on from him? Meanwhile, Rod has finished his conversation with the Emperor and is now hurrying to find Dahlia because he's quite concerned, as he truly believes she isn't feeling well. The way he sees through her, plus points for my boy. But Rod feels his heart sink when he notices River gently holding a sleeping Dahlia in his arms. Rod quickly orders River to hand over Dahlia, but River responds that she's not a thing he can just order around. He also points out that Dahlia wasn't feeling well and asks Rod where he was when she needed help. River wants to avoid any more arguments for Dahlia's sake, and with the possibility of the nobles starting another rumor, he chooses to hand Dahlia over to Rod. Rod believed that remaining friends was the best choice, but now, as he holds Dahlia close, he truly doesn't want to let go of this lovely warmth he's experiencing. He is now blushing and looking really worried as he feels conflicted about what to do next. When Dahlia wakes up the next morning, her parents become frantic about what happened to her, while she is perplexed to discover that she fainted and has no memory of how she got home. However, she is surprised to learn that Rod brought her home. Her mind then begins to replay images of River from last night, and since he has everything she wants, she is considering proposing to him. She's super fearless. Before then, she has one major issue to deal with. Her aunt, Marchioness Myers, is forming a group to compete with her for the post of next head of House Avalon, since she wants her son to be the next duke. Her aunt is her father's sister, and she is a very capable woman, which is why his father entrusted her with the family and decided to become a knight. However, she fell in love with Marquess Myers and decided to become a Marchioness, prompting her father to use a chance to become the Avalon family's successor in order to marry her mother. Dahlia finds this suspicious because her aunt is not the type of person who's thirsty for power, making her concerned that this is tied to the unknown person who has been targeting her family. She shrugs it off for the time being and focuses on protecting her position as the future heir, which will be determined by the performance of the trade company. She plans on using her special card, the Mind of the Felitos Mountains, but Lowell informs her that the title competition will be about accommodation, requiring her to run an inn. Dahlia is now losing her mind, while Jaren is simply watching her and commenting on how terrible this is, given that tourism and lodging are currently in a drop. There was a travel craze once, so House Avalon purchased a few hotels to keep up with the trend, but it swiftly faded. Jaren, the strategist, presents her two options: the easy route, which will take longer, or the hard way, which will take less time. Dahlia, the shameless girl that she is, smiles and says she wants the easy and quick way. Same girl, same. Jaren sighs and decides to simply explain both options. The first one is to extensively rebuild the inn, making it more public-friendly until its name becomes established, which will undoubtedly take some time. The second option is to acquire business rights to Beloa, the continent's largest port city. It is the maritime center of the Hessen Kingdom, connecting to several countries. But because it is more famous in the kingdom itself, the people refer to it as the Beloa Kingdom. Building an inn there will undoubtedly be successful, but Jaren informs her that she will have to compete with the youngest son of House Rubabel, who also wants business rights. The youngest son may have average talents, but he has a wide network that includes the Prince of the Hessen Kingdom. But Jaren believes Dahlia still has a chance to win because the king has been delaying the business license. Dahlia becomes dizzy when she recalls that in the story, the king's youngest daughter suffers from an incurable sickness, which gives her confidence that she can persuade the king to grant her business rights. No one knows what his daughter's illness is, but as someone who has read the story, she knows it as mana deficiency syndrome. It is a condition that can cause someone to die slowly, but the solution is simple. They require magic mineral sap. However, her current challenge is obtaining this magical mineral, which can be located in the northern forest of darkness. This reminds her that with winter approaching, Rod will have to head back north, and that thought is making her feel a bit sad. Since she fainted during the party, Roderick has been sending different captains to her house, which she appreciates but finds uncomfortable, and she wishes Rod would just come himself if he's so worried about her. Today is Leona's turn, and Dahlia discovers that the northern forest has become dangerously overrun with high-ranking monsters. So the Emperor decides to provide the Bowsers with reinforcements. Leona thinks it's not necessary, while Dahlia feels this is part of the Emperor's plan to have Rod as his son-in-law. A knight from the Imperial Palace insists on Rod leaving for the north as soon as possible, but our guy here refuses because he has already stated that he'll go in the winter. The knight emphasizes that this is a direct order from the Emperor, prompting Rod to question what will happen if he disobeys it. Is he brave enough to draw his sword in front of him and his captains? This causes the poor knight to get scared and run for his life. Rod wants to stay a little longer because he's concerned that if he doesn't take action now, he and Dahlia might drift apart and end up feeling awkward around each other. Above all, he really doesn't want to think about River coming between them, so there's no way he will leave. Finally, it's about time to get it together, mister! Today, Dahlia feels a wave of happiness as she receives a letter from River, but her heart sinks a little when she reads at the bottom that he'll be joining the expedition team heading north. She happily lets Jaren know that she plans to follow River to the north, and shyly mentions that she might return as a family. She even invites Jaren to join her since it could be fun to collect magical mineral sap together. But he declines and states that he isn't fond of River. Jaren gets serious and mentions how strange it is that River keeps running into her. He's heard that the current Duke Goldman is quite power-hungry, so he feels something might be off and advises Dahlia to stay cautious. It's great to see that Dahlia is staying level-headed and is on the same page as Jaren about being cautious. He must be involved with that group that's working to take down Avalon, right? Such a manipulative bastard! Thank goodness our girl has a sharp bestie. Dahlia then goes to Hestia and informs her that she must create a cure for mana deficiency, but she does not have to worry because she will travel to the north to obtain magical mineral sap. When Hestia learns that Dahlia will be staying with the Bowsers, she immediately declares herself a dating expert before requesting Dahlia to take her with her to the north. Honestly, whatever goes down in the north is gonna be exciting. It didn't take long for Dahlia to decide to venture to the north. Or, in her parents' understanding, to follow Roderick, as they reminisced about the times when the little persistent Dahlia wanted to go wherever the boy was. Claire can only dream that perhaps the two will become a couple. As do we. However, Dahlia insists nothing will ever happen between her and Roderick, as they're just friends. Oh boy, but Papa Adelio can see right through her as he questions if she is plainly denying because of River. Thus, the interrogation starts. It is well known River is the second son of the Goldmans, plus the most renowned bachelor in society. Not to mention good looks and good personality, an automatic A+ brownie points to her parents. Yet Adelio can't help but ask the biggest question we've all been asking for. What about Roderick? Still, Dahlia is persistent that she is merely friends with Roderick, and anything beyond friendship is not likely. On a side note, River gives her the doki dokis, the heart fluttering. So Dahlia is confident that after this trip to the north, she'll be bringing them a marriage partner. Speaking of Roderick, it's been a long while since she saw him. Then again, he must be super busy now with the rampant monsters in the Forest of Darkness with the Bowser Knights. But the stakes are now high, as the Emperor sent out support troops to follow him, which means Rudrick will now be indebted to the Emperor's favor. Rudrick will furthermore be busier, but Dahlia is already adamant with her decision. As soon as she sees her childhood friend, she's at a loss with how worrisome the man in front of her appears to be. Not beating around the bush, she questions if he still worries over her, and if so, why the heck hasn't he visited her all this time and just keeps sending his knights? Then she admits to knowing he ventured back to the north. Despite it being an imperial command, Rudrick tells her he won't be going. What? What about her plans of joining him? This plan comes as a shock to Rudrick, and apparently his eavesdropping knights as well. Rudrick is genuinely confused. Why would Dahlia follow him to the north? Could it be for the reason he secretly hopes? We can only wish for the same thing, my boy. Dahlia gives her super real reason, to capture the magic insects living in the forest. Sometimes, honesty truly dampens our moods. Michel overhears their conversation. He's only heard stories of those insects from his grandfather, who lived in a village near the forest. Sadly, the Forest of Darkness swallowed that entire area long ago. Still, that's no reason for her to travel north with them. Or could it be because she doesn't want to be apart from a certain someone? Dahlia, bold as ever, confirms it with a smile. Chaos erupts across the room. Who could it be? Rudrick stares at her, frozen, especially when she adds that it's someone he knows well. The more she speaks, the tighter his fists clench. He imagines her with River. If only he could be the person she relies on, he would do everything to make her happy. Today, he decides, is the day he proves it. All that careful determination shatters when she reveals the special someone. She's planning to ask River to be her fiancé. The entire Bowser Knight stand frozen, utterly flabbergasted. That night, Rudrick finally understands. Why does he constantly look her way? Why does she occupy his thoughts even in his darkest moments? Why can he never forget her voice, her smile, the way she challenges him without fear? He has fallen for her from the very start. But it seems like it is already too late. His knights appear before him, apologizing for their nosiness, eavesdropping on such a private revelation. Ruth steps forward and asks the question everyone wants answered. What does he plan to do next? Since Dahlia's heart is set on River, Rudrick sees no reason to linger. He will return to the north. Distance, perhaps, will dull the ache. The knights scramble to play wingman, suggesting they invite Dahlia along and conveniently leave River behind. But Rudrick knows her too well. Her stubbornness and relentless determination. If left alone with River for even a day, they will end up married before he can ever return. He can't bear that thought. He commands them to inform the Emperor their departure remains unchanged of personnel and be scheduled immediately. If there is no chance, he will create one by changing her mind entirely. They will all travel together. He will shadow her every step, and he will make sure she never gets the chance to confess to River. Meanwhile, Dahlia sneezes violently. Someone is definitely talking about her. She and Hestia pack for tomorrow's sudden trip north. The urgency perplexes her. Why leave so soon? She shrugs it off, remembering her nightmares and the endless nights of restless sleep that stalled her from ever going out on trips. Oh well, this may not be a trip, but she'll use the quiet time at Rudrick's estate to confess properly to River. Back with the Bowser Knights, their master now gone, they form a worried huddle. None of them imagine Dahlia meant someone else. They inadvertently hurt Rudrick's feelings, rubbing salt into a wound he didn't even know he had. But there's still time to fix this. Their Excellency seems more determined than ever, a fire lighting his usually stoic eyes. They can help change Dahlia's heart. As long as she and River aren't officially together yet, there is still a fighting chance. Thus, Operation Changing the Matters of the Heart commences. The next day, the knights once again begged for a moment with his grace, opting to apologize first for the misunderstanding. Yet of course, they're not one to easily give up, as they planned out a solution to aid his love life. As much as Rudrick thinks they're ridiculous, he ends up entertaining them. Leona explains to him she knows of Dahlia's favorite pickup line, even reenacting it as Dahlia. The ending result was expressions of disbelief and disgust. Though it isn't a far stretch, as Dahlia does say the same pickup line as she practices it in front of Jaren, as an attempt to woo River. The Mosshead just thinks it's undeniably ridiculous and wonders where on earth she picked up such things. ripping and burning also her flirt lists. Is she truly easily swayed by such tactics? Jaren also attempts the same thing with her, and she immediately realizes maybe such a tactic really won't work on anyone, much to his annoyance. But Dahlia has her head up in the clouds, thinking that just maybe it'll all work out in her favor since they'll see each other in the expenditure. Jaren can only look at his employer with utmost disgust. Her little imagination for her future love life to begin gets absolutely ruined on the day they depart. Just as soon as she sees, and maybe is charmed by, Rudrick's uniform, she immediately searches for River, only to be told by a smug Rudrick that the blondie departed a few days earlier. He's now playing dirty, and I love it, Rude. Then we see River sitting alone near a campfire, burning a letter with his face. Not his usual friendly self. Why does he look so suspicious, though? The route to the north usually starts where they transport using a portal to go to the village where there is another portal. Then another portal in the next village. It's an endless cycle of portals, all right. However, due to the increased number of troops, the group will be split into two, as the portal has a limit on how many people it can transport. Seeing how complex the route is, Dahlia asks if there is any other direct way to go to the north. But Leona explains they will have to use the portal owned by the mages, which costs a whole lot. Oh ho ho! If money is the issue, Dahlia can absolutely deliver. When the trip usually takes a month, they arrived in the north in just 3 days. The troops are glad for their lady, with an exception of one Rudrick. A huge setback to Rudrick's plans. It isn't so long until Dahlia rejoices to see River, as it's been so long since they last saw each other. River deeply apologizes for not telling her sooner, as the assignment was done at the last minute. However, she's just happy to see him, and it isn't like they do not regularly write to each other. Careful, Dahlia, someone's mood has worsened. She just hopes next time he tells her in advance, or else... Right before she can finish her words, Rudrick finishes them for her. Dahlia is quick to tell River that Rudrick was kidding about her resorting to violence, but this is the first time River has heard the Duke joking. It must mean Dahlia is quite special to him. You're right on the dot, Riv. However, River is also just a man, as he smoothly requests to make it up to her, and he has a lot of time for it, much to Rudrick's annoyance. This makes Dahlia doubt if they're really close or not. River soon explains to her that the magically enhanced carriage she rode here is not sturdy in these rough parts of the north. Magic isn't even suitable here, thus he asks her to ride his horse with him. Oh no, not a horse! Before she can muster a response, Rudrick butts in by boasting that he has lived in the north his entire life, which is true, and that riding a horse here is different from the capital. In conclusion, riding his horse is much safer. Dahlia is now further confused until River counters that his riding skills are excellent, and that this isn't his first time in the north. This causes the two males to glare at each other. She can only ask who says she'll be riding anyone's horses. If it has come to this, then they must respect the lady's choice. So, who will you choose, Dahlia? Rudrick, have you forgotten she has trauma with horseback riding? Didn't you get injured from saving her? And most importantly, I would pick the Duke, Dahlia. Will she choose her handsome childhood friend who has plenty of talent and skills? Or the competent and charming knight? River confidently claims he will save her from any sort of trouble, which Rudrick refutes as to why there would be any trouble in the first place. However, River counters that she wasn't safe with him when they went horseback riding years ago. Wait, what? How on earth do you know that, River? Already having enough with their rivalry between them, Dahlia decides to... Continuing their journey, Dahlia is feeling a little carsick inside the carriage with Hestia, who suggests she should have ridden a horse upon observing how ghastly she looks. It seems like she rejected both men. Then again, she really hasn't been able to ride a horse ever since she was 10. Witnessing Rudrick get injured left a scar on her mind. Multiple attempts were tried, but it only serves to feed the fire in her. All she can think of is him getting hurt. She doesn't blame Rudrick for the incident years ago, as it was an accident, but it's clear he still feels some sense of guilt. She can only hope he doesn't blame himself. Speaking about the Duke, Hestia compliments him for the extreme effort he makes, and all for Dahlia. All of the carriages are meant for the goods, plus the seats aren't comfortable. However, he took the time to get a carriage comfortable enough for her to endure her motion sickness. That alone just says he has feelings for her. Hestia, you are truly smart, even though perhaps your dedication is based on misunderstanding. During break, when transport is stopped, Dahlia plans to clear up with Hestia when River knocks on the door to her carriage, seeking to give her a mana stone, which will help warm up her body. Instead of relying on magic, it depends on the element of fire. Plus, he wishes to put it on her. Dahlia is just merely a girl, as she allows him to do so, much to the chagrin of a certain someone who is watching closely. After that, River excuses himself, and that's when Rudrick appears from hiding, asking when she plans to stop playing coy. She merely looks at him as if the answer were obvious, until they start to date. Dahlia doesn't know telling Rudrick that will become the biggest regret she'll ever have. From then on, Rudrick systematically disrupts every moment between Dahlia and River. He calls River to endless meetings. He joins them for meals. The whole enchilada. Dahlia grows frustrated. Rudrick is supposed to be her best friend. That's right, girl! Your best friend, whom you can't see, has feelings for you! Eventually, River carves out time with her despite Rudrick's interference. He notices she has a nickname that only few people know. Too embarrassing to say, she admits. River reassures her. He wishes to call her by it anyway. Then Rudrick, ever the intervener, bluntly uses the nickname himself. River is genuinely surprised. It isn't typical, he admits, but now he understands her hesitation. Still, he hopes someday he'll earn the confidence to call her that too. Dahlia looks forward to it, much to Rudrick's annoyance. Back in her shared room, Dahlia giddily updates Hestia. She'll be married anytime soon at this rate. Hestia is happy for her, yet she can't imagine Dahlia's future husband being anyone but the Duke. The thought lingers. Why is Rudrick getting between them? He used to be easily embarrassed. Now he's utterly shameless. Is it because he dislikes River? Or something else entirely? Seeking fresh air, Dahlia steps outside. River appears, mentioning a nearby stream. Safe, he assures her. He will protect her from any danger. The waterfall captivates her. She apologizes for Rudrick's recent behavior. River understands why. He simply won't tell her. The two men were stuck together throughout the war. He offers to answer any questions she has, and Dahlia seizes the opportunity. Why did he approach her? Their first meeting was a coincidence. The second? Fate. The third, perhaps, is destiny. In her silly little heart, Dahlia wonders if they're soulmates, but she's still a woman of reason. What if her imagination isn't really all that? She half expects him to laugh it off, so why is he looking at her with such a serious gaze? River confesses. His father, Duke Goldman, kept tabs on her, everything about her. After the ball, his father handed over River's information to the Averys. River never wanted to approach her because of his family, especially since his father remained fixated on the in-law alliance. Dahlia asks the bigger question. Does he genuinely like her? He stares, speechless, but his expression alone paints the full picture. She ends the conversation abruptly, needing to sort through her thoughts. Jaren warned her. She expected this somehow. Still, the unrequited ache stings. Before she can retreat, she spots Rudrick. He claims he's looking for River to discuss something, feigning ignorance. He offers to escort her back. Finally alone, River jokes that he's never been interrogated twice in one day. Rudrick admits he followed them. River assures him he won't hurt Dahlia. But what is he doing now? He warned Rudrick not to act recklessly. Now River is using her for marriage, fully knowing how much she likes him. A hypocrite he is. Rudrick tells him to leave her alone. Heading back, Rudrick finds Dahlia waiting in the shadows. She asks what they discussed. He admits he suspected River all along. Dahlia insists the fault is hers. She chose to trust him. It's her fault for liking him. So why is Rudrick getting in the way when he's supposed to be her friend? His answer hangs in the air, heavy and final. He asks if he can intervene, not as her friend, because he no longer has any intention of being just her childhood friend anymore. Finally he said it! Dahlia somehow already has a clue that maybe Rudrick has feelings for her from the start. But the childhood memory of him telling her he's glad they will be friends for a long time keeps resurfacing. Because being friends is the only way they won't drift apart like his parents. So, does he realize what he told her? Her line of thoughts is cut when she overhears the knights complaining that they like the capital more than the Bowser Manor. It isn't like the warm and bright Averin Duchy, but the complete opposite. As for River, before they departed, he informed her he would be traveling with the Imperial Army and apologized to her deeply for his intentions. Just before she can deeply sort out her thoughts again, they have finally arrived at the Bowser Manor. She doesn't get why the knights complain. It seems like a perfectly normal fortress, but she notes how the servants quiver in fear upon Rudrick's entrance. The next day, from the moment she wakes up and eats breakfast with Rudrick, the behavior of the servants absolutely doesn't make sense. They're all afraid of Rudrick as if he were to kill them. Has Rudrick been living like this the entire time? She now gets why the manor is suffocating. Thus, she plans to head home sooner, after enough research after she borrows the library key from Rudrick. Well, that is her plan, until she bumps into a supporting character of the novel, Cassar. Not only is he the captain of the 1st Division of the Bowser Knights, he is also the descendant of an already extinct warrior race. He has no connections to the Bowsers, but he became captain because he is completely and ruthlessly strong. Not to mention, he is quite infamous for his rudeness as he calls her stupid. Somehow, things escalate to her being called a witch. Dahlia, subtly furious, tells him he must have the wrong person. Cassar remembers her clearly, a despicable, greedy witch. Rudrick intervenes, firmly dismissing Cassar. He quickly steers Dahlia away while the captain resumes his angry glares. Just what is his deal with her anyway? Able to obtain the key, Rudrick reassures her not to take Cassar's words to heart. He's always like that. Dahlia feels a pang of guilt. She's always called him nosy when he only ever looked out for her. The reason for Cassar's hostility? The Averin family claimed rights over the Bowser Knights. Cassar must feel deeply insulted, unaware that Dahlia made that decision to help Rudrick secretly. She resolves to clear up the misunderstanding later. But will it help? Cassar is a devoted follower of Rudrick. It absolutely doesn't faze the first captain. He insists she's lying to become Duchess Bowser, even threatens her to pack up and leave within a day. Furious now, Dahlia pushes his buttons. Maybe his shirt is too tight for him to understand her words. Maybe he's only doing this to grab her attention to become her husband. Or maybe he's secretly in love with the Duke. Rudrick, your male admirers are piling up. First Jaren and the next is Cassar? Embarrassed by the sheer absurdity of her accusations, Cassar flees to complain to Rudrick, only to face a worse punishment. Relocation, either east or west. The large burly man cries openly, loudly hating the Duke. Even that measly button doing the Lord's work can't contain Cassar. Left alone with his knights, Rudrick contemplates something incredible. If Dahlia likes men in tight shirts, then she needs one. Yes, incredibly ridiculous. True to his thoughts, Rudrick acquires a shirt visibly tighter than his usual. One that basically hugs his darned muscles in the right places. Just as he planned, Dahlia is quick to take notice, albeit not in the way he expected. As she stares, Rudrick thinks he's won, but the next thing he knows is that Dahlia is offering to take him shopping. She's more worried that her friend isn't getting enough care out here in the north. I mean, they couldn't even get him clothes that fit him? Embarrassed, Rudrick excuses himself first, trying to hide his tomato-red face from Dahlia, who shows no signs of falling for his wooing antics. Later that day, the head maid of the Bowser Manor, Miss Rosetta Fedwig, seeks out Dahlia, much to the latter's confusion. From her recollection of the original novel, Dahlia remembers Rosetta as the person who managed to keep the Bowser Manor running even after the misfortunes that befell the family. Dahlia has huge respect for Rosetta, but she wonders why she's looking for her in the first place. Her curiosities are answered when Rosetta cuts straight to the chase. She wants to host a party in the manor for a change, and she believes that Dahlia is the key to making that happen. You see, the Bowser Manor has always been gloomy. It's always been like that since time immemorial. But ever since Dahlia came, the atmosphere has changed drastically. She isn't asking for much, just for Dahlia to secure Rudrick's approval to host the party. Hearing Rosetta, Dahlia beams and instantly agrees. Heck, she even marches straight to Rudrick's quarters right after their conversation. Inside Rudrick's room, he changes out of his ridiculously tight clothes, leaving his chiseled torso exposed. The embarrassing events at breakfast replay in his mind. But suddenly, his room doors fly open and in comes Dahlia, who's behold to quite a sight. Rudrick's chest in full view. Heat rises to her cheeks and she instantly retreats. Even Rivers Goldman never made her blush like that. Realizing the situation, Rudrick's face also begins turning a deep red, but it's too late. His childhood friend and current crush has already run off. Back in Dahlia's room, sleep doesn't find her at all. For the first time, she starts thinking of Rudrick in a different light. In a not just a childhood friend kind of way. Thanks to their little situation, the party is approved with ease, and the next few days are spent planning for it without a single opposition from Rudrick. Every now and then, Dahlia meets with him, but neither of them talk about the incident a few days back. While she's out here trying her best to cut their meeting short out of fluster and embarrassment, Rudrick is the complete opposite. He actually starts enjoying how flustered she is. After another meeting with Rudrick, Dahlia meets with Rosetta to assist with the planning, but she's amazed to see that she's already taken care of everything. The two are inspecting the preparations when an unfamiliar floral arrangement catches Dahlia's eyes. The flowers themselves are unfamiliar to Rosetta, but seeing how Dahlia finds them pretty, she decides to keep them. As Rosetta takes her leave, Dahlia inches closer to the flowers, fully intending to get a good whiff of its scent. But out of nowhere, Khazar steps in, forcefully breaking the vase and pushing Dahlia away from them. Apparently, the flowers are poisonous and just its scent is enough to paralyze a grown adult. Living near the Forest of Darkness, he knows the flowers all too well. But as to why they're even in the manor, he can only guess an idiot is to blame. The realization then hits Dahlia. Someone purposely placed poisonous flowers to ruin the party. She has no idea who the mastermind is, but luckily her parents didn't raise a pushover. She plans to catch the culprit, and Khazar might just be able to help her. Oh well, poor Khazar. He may be the toughest around, but he's no match for Dahlia. The following day, a horrific scene greets Dahlia. The entire ballroom is in shambles. Khazar is breaking all the preparations for the party out of hate for Dahlia, and he's doing it all exactly as planned. Yesterday, as soon as Dahlia realized the predicament, her first course of action was to inform Rudrick. There's a traitor in their midst, she shares, and it's up to her to find out who. Like the supportive husband-to-be that he is, Rudrick allows Dahlia to handle the situation. He assigns her a maid, Cecil, who, despite her recent recruitment, is proven to be a trustworthy servant. Immediately, they all get to work, Khazar as the designated Hulk and Cecil as the spy. After a while, Cecil manages to spot items that were swapped out with defective ones. This makes Dahlia think hard. What exactly is the enemy's goal? Is it to take someone out or simply just ruin the party? Still, whatever their motives are, Dahlia can't afford to take any chances. It's time to bring in the big guns. Our favorite science geek, Hestia. By Dahlia's orders, she develops a color-changing solution that will rat out the culprit. All they have to do is wipe the solution all over the decorations before heading to bed. It's clear and invisible, but when the culprit begins to swap out the decorations overnight, the solution sticks to their skin and changes color by morning. With everything all set, Dahlia then sets the plan in motion. At present, Khazar wrecks everything in the ballroom, following through with his role of becoming a distraction. Soon, all the maids begin complaining about his behavior, and with it comes their irritation for Dahlia, who refuses to give up the party. Yet, amid all the grumbling, one maid, Beth, remains unbothered. She looks tired herself, but she convinces everyone to keep working. Heck, she even tries to convince the others not to view Dahlia in a bad light. This girl is suspicious. By nightfall, the maids retreat, all except Cecil. Please don't let her be the traitor. By morning, Hestia's color-changing solution has kicked in, and just as they hoped, the real culprit is caught when her hands are stained with the solution's pigment. The traitor in question is none other than Beth. See, I knew she was suspicious. In no time, Khazar appears behind her, and soon she's taken for questioning. She feigns ignorance, and her acting is almost convincing, except for the part that her hands are stained with color. Before long, Russ explains all the measures they took to catch the culprit. Hearing everything, including the flower's effects, horror flashes in Beth's eyes. She's been caught, but it's all a big mistake. She collapses to her knees, her face mortified with guilt. She's only the culprit, but she's not the mastermind. She even tells them that she didn't know the flowers were that lethal. Over and over, she exclaims that this is all a misunderstanding. It gets so bad that Khazar starts thinking she's gone insane. Just then, Beth demands for the real traitor to be brought in. She's just about to rat out the mastermind when all of a sudden, blood spews uncontrollably from her mouth. In seconds, she collapses onto the floor, her body stiff. Russ rushes to her side, but it's too late. Beth has died. An unexpected turn of events that mortified Dahlia. Hours later, Rudrick informs Dahlia about the investigation's findings. Apparently, Beth had been poisoned long before she was caught. The mastermind had been ready to discard from the start. Knowing Dahlia's personality, he reassures her that the casualty wasn't her fault. But with a life on their hands now, he refuses for Dahlia to get involved much further. Ever so coldly, he dismisses her, telling her to finish her business in the north and go home. Ouch, kinda harsh. Dahlia retreats back to her room, hurt and appalled. Just then, Russ chases after her and reassures her that Rudrick only meant well. He's just worried, especially because the poison used on Beth might be the same one used on Duchess Bowser. Russ's words alarm Dahlia. She didn't know the situation ran so deep. There's so much about Rudrick's traumatic past that she doesn't know about. But now that he's drawn a boundary between them, she's left with no choice but not to meddle. Despite all the setbacks that have happened, the party continues as planned. It's a first for the Bowser estate, and for that, Rosetta is nothing but grateful to Dahlia for making it happen. Hearing her thanks, Dahlia brushes it off humbly. But she soon cuts their conversation short when she spots River Goldman making an entrance. As they greet each other, River can only express relief to see Dahlia safe after the events of late. Dahlia, on the other hand, brushes it off like it's nothing. But then it hits her. How could he have known about the incident? She's about to ask him about it, but to her dismay, he excuses himself. I'm starting to smell something fishy here. But hey, River leaving her alone might have just been at the right timing, because soon the dance begins. Thankfully, Rudrick asks her to dance first, but it's hella awkward between them. Rudrick breaks the ice, apologizing for how harsh he was during their last meeting, but Dahlia has no intention of forgiving him so easily. Ever so playful, she quickly quips that she's already packed her bags, a comment that makes Rudrick panic. Yet to his surprise, she laughs, claiming that she was only kidding. She could never leave him alone. Her only wish is for Rudrick to realize that, and that he shares his burdens with her too. Soon, the second dance begins, and River asks Dahlia out. However, as they dance, she notices that he slowly pulls her farther and farther from the crowd. His behavior alarms her, and it doesn't help that he keeps glancing back as if waiting for something to happen. Just then, the whole estate erupts into chaos. Calyx Bowser, Rudrick's father, has just passed. What was supposed to be the Bowser estate's first party quickly turns into a gloomy funeral for the late Duke. The Duke had been bedridden for a while now, but his passing was unexpected. However, what's even more alarming is that his ring is missing. Why all the fuss about a simple ring, you may ask? Well, it just so happens that the Duke's ring was the medium that kept the seal of the Forest of Darkness in check. Without it, the barrier might just collapse, and there's no telling what dangers await them then. Unfortunately, though, the thief was just within their midst, a maid who disappeared as soon as the Duke passed. Rosetta Fedwick! Great! Now I'm going to start having trust issues! Dahlia's eyes widen in disbelief. Had this been Rosetta's plan from the start? The party, the issue with Beth, all that just to weaken the estate's security and distract everyone? A wave of guilt gnaws at Dahlia's conscience. Guiltily, she croaks out an apology to Rudrick, but she's cut short. Like usual, Rudrick reassures her that it isn't her fault. Rosetta's plot looked like it had been in motion for quite some time, even long before Dahlia came to the north with him. Rosetta would have realized her plan sooner or later. It just so happens that she did so while Dahlia was around. It just can't be helped, can it? After all, their enemies are beyond their control. There is no preventing it in the end. Where do I get myself a man like this? Dahlia smiles weakly, but she still apologizes sincerely nonetheless. But just then, her feelings of guilt soon turn into surprise when Rudrick assigns Khazar to become her personal guard. Khazar also shares the same shock. He tries to refute, but Rudrick couldn't care less about his opinion. In the end, Khazar is left with no choice. But hey, he seems to be way more tame now compared to his first appearance. He even manages to offer Dahlia some words of comfort when she begins sulking again. And just like that, Dahlia has just gained another friend. Of course, Khazar would never admit that. Speaking of Khazar, she recalls that he once lived near the Forest of Darkness, making her wonder if he's ever come across magic insects and magic mineral sap. To her luck, he admits that he has. The only problem now is that he refuses to give up the information for free. Dahlia may be desperate, but she's not that desperate. Instead, she relies on Michelle's grandfather instead, an alternative that leaves Khazar dejected. Like clockwork, Michelle responds that setting a meeting with her grandfather is no issue. However, there's a teensy problem. He lives near the North's danger zone. Stubborn as ever, Dahlia refuses to give up. If it's danger they're talking about, then she knows the perfect person to inform. Her childhood friend, Rudrick Bowser. Without thinking twice, he offers to go with her on her journey. As the two reach an agreement, Dahlia finds herself noticing Rudrick's features. Absent-mindedly, she cups his cheek, an act that almost sends him into a fluster psychosis. Just based on his reaction, it's obvious that Rudrick has come to have feelings for her. Unfortunately, it's something she has to ignore. After all, the true female lead of the story has yet to appear. Girl, he's yours for the taking! Take him now before Little Miss Protagonist does! Before long, Dahlia, Rudrick, and their company of knights embark on a journey to meet with Michelle's grandfather. When they reach his residence, Dahlia doesn't beat around the bush. She immediately asks about the magical insects. Magic insects themselves are rare, but for someone as old and experienced as Michelle's grandfather, he's seen his fair share. He tells her everything he knows and even offers her his own father's map of the forest. His insights and assistance fill Dahlia with gratitude. But her smile vanishes quickly when he informs her that she isn't the only one who has come to ask about the insects. Just recently, a blonde man has come asking the same thing. The man didn't introduce himself, but he was clearly of noble status. This alarms Dahlia, and she excuses herself for a bit. The only reason she began looking for magic insects was because they're used to cure mana deficiency syndrome, an illness she has to cure if she wants to secure business rights and win the successor competition. Could she be facing a rival? Or someone deliberately sabotaging her? For some reason, her gut tells her that the man in question is River Goldman. He was someone she genuinely loved, so for him to betray her in ways unimaginable, it just breaks her heart completely. Seeing Dahlia cry in secret makes Rudrick's heart break too. The two truly think alike. He also suspects it's Goldman, and he'll make sure to make him pay. Soon, Dahlia rejoins everyone and they begin looking for the magic insects. But just as they follow the map, they find themselves on a monster route. Monsters flank them from all directions, giving them no option but to fight. Instantly, Rudrick orders Khazar to take Dahlia somewhere safe. However, as they flee the scene, monsters begin pursuing them. Khazar fights one monster after another to protect Dahlia. But out of nowhere, another monster lunges and Khazar is thrown away from Dahlia. Seeing the monster, Dahlia's blood runs cold. She'd never make it out alive. But like the literal knight in shining armor, Rudrick comes to her rescue. With lightning speed and superhuman skill, he ends the monster with ease. He really is a one-man army. With the immediate danger taken care of, Dahlia runs to rejoin Rudrick. But just as she does, the ground cracks beneath her feet. Give my girl a break, you guys! Quick as ever, Rudrick rushes to her side, softly mouthing that he'll always protect her. And just like that, the ground collapses beneath them, and the two plunge into darkness. A while later, Dahlia finds herself stuck in a trance-like dream. Before her, Rudrick cries uncontrollably, and just behind him is the original female lead, O'Neill. The sight of a menacing-looking O'Neill is enough to wake Dahlia from her nightmare. When she comes to, she sees Rudrick pacing around, and she immediately begins being her talkative self. However, Rudrick interrupts her and averts his eyes, telling her to fix her clothes first. Apparently, she's in nothing but her innerwear. You see, according to Rudrick's narration, the two had fallen into an underground lake, and he had no choice but to remove Dahlia's soaked layers lest she fall sick and die. Hearing his words, Dahlia feels a wave of guilt envelop her. It was her idea to go on this expedition, and now look where they ended up. Ever so casually, Rudrick presents her with something that turns her frown upside down. A magic insect. Dahlia is in disbelief, but he tells her there's more where that came from. Inside the underground cave, a huge magical stone deposit attracts numerous magic insects, the rarest of the rare sightings ever. Usually, magic insects are never seen together, but with an ore deposit this large, it's no wonder that it's become a feasting ground for the bugs. And speaking of bugs, Dahlia suggests they retreat. There's no telling what other magic creatures they'd find in there. Countering her fearful thoughts, Rudrick remains calm and rational. He disagrees with her. This is no den for magic creatures, but rather a graveyard. Right, like that's more comforting? There was once this uncommon tale he heard during the war. When magic creatures die, they turn into magical stones. This gets the gears in Dahlia's head thinking. If corpses become magic stones, then why not just use the corpses instead of the expensive magic ores? Whatever happened to respect for the dead? With an air of confidence, Dahlia tells Rudrick to catch more magic insects. As soon as they finish, they head out to look for an exit, and after an entire day, they're finally reunited with their company. Soon, everyone journeys back to the Bowser estate, and this time Dahlia doesn't even oppose riding with Rudrick. She falls asleep during the journey home, and Rudrick is happy to tuck her into bed. A few nights ago, Russ had informed Rudrick that Rosetta Fedwig had been found dead, and the Bowser ring no longer in her possession. After an investigation, it was found that her late husband owed gamblers a hefty debt, and that the gamblers might have been behind her death. But the cherry on top? The Goldman Dukedom is involved in operating the gambling house. For a while, Rudrick thinks back to Dahlia and River's history. Surely if he told her all this, she'd give up on him, right? Rudrick will have his cards to play, but he just can't stand hurting Dahlia with a revelation like that. Maybe one day he'd have his chance. Until then, he'll wait for Dahlia, however long it takes. Days later, Dahlia is finally back in tip-top shape. When she meets with Hestia, Hestia expresses curiosity about the events during the expedition. But with Rudrick there, Hestia can hardly worry. She knows her friend is in good hands. And speaking of Rudrick, Dahlia feels her heart skipping a beat at the mention of his name. Clearing her throat, she asks Hestia for updates on the medicine, and luckily, she delivers good results. Soon, when they manage to perfect the medicine's formula, she'll go in for the kill. Heal the king's daughter, secure the business rights, and win the competition. Unfortunately, time isn't on her side, as Jaren informs her via letters that the Hessen kingdom isn't in such a good situation. If she can, he urges her to speed things up. I guess she'll have to leave the north soon then. Later, she goes to see Rudrick, and to her surprise, he doesn't take offense in her hasty departure. Instead, he even offers her her own northern knight, Khazar. She tries her best to decline, but when Rudrick plants a gentle kiss on the back of her palm, Dahlia instantly knows that there's no winning against him. Dahlia sees Jaren at the port and greets him with excitement since it's been such a long time since they last saw each other. As they approach him, Sir Khazar raises his sword at him, which stuns him. Dahlia already explained to him that it's Jaren they talked about. She apologizes for her guard's off persona. Jaren can't tell if he's a guard or a scoundrel. Oh my, that's quite funny. Dahlia almost lost focus while thinking about Rudrick. Anyway, to the point, how is the princess? She asks. Her condition has apparently worsened. They head to the guild to discuss it further. The princess remains in a coma at this time, with rumors that she has died already, as there have been no updates. It's O'Neill who can treat the princess, but since she's unavailable, her life is at stake. Where is she anyway? Dahlia has a sense that it could be because the future is changing, or it could be because she tried changing it. Jaren and his team are still investigating the causes and the princess's well-being. The king already tried various treatments to save her, which Dahlia is aware of. After the shaman visited her, her sickness deteriorated rapidly. The country did everything they could to catch the shaman. The shaman disappeared like a ghost. This is when the king started to suspect most of the healers, even the medicine itself. Dahlia has a thought, for not all healers are cast out before it's too late. Plans change, but she tells the story of the princess who got sick, Irina Hassen. Her father prayed endlessly while taking care of his daughter alone. She lost her sight due to the illness. The king wanted to save her no matter what. One day, they called a shaman for her and completed a ritual, saying her life will be rushed. Her father blames himself for trusting a stranger. No, that's tragic. Moments later, the famous healer from Veloa arrived. The king has heard rumors of her being called the Hands of God, as anyone who is treated by her recovers. As the king is speaking, Dahlia unveils her identity to apologize to him face to face and reintroduces herself. It's happening! He lets her come up with generosity. The king is shocked to see her. Dahlia has the medicine that could heal the princess, but that's not news to him. She assures him that she is genuine, but he still won't believe her. So she tells him something else. The profit she builds will go through the princess if she cannot heal her, making it hard for the king to refuse the offer. That's quite risky, but she is being genuine after all. The king asks what she wants in return, and Dahlia requests a transfer of Veloa's business rights. The deal is sealed, and they go to the princess's room to begin treatment. The king holds his daughter's hand tightly, hoping it will work. And to everyone's surprise, it succeeds. Afterward, Jaren admits how anxious he was, saying failure would have ended badly, even with Dahlia being kicked out of Averlin. Dahlia, relieved, now also has the promise of the business transfer. The princess wants to publicly announce that she recovered thanks to Dahlia, which will also serve as the moment for the transfer. However, Dahlia has already received the stamped documents and is already planning to build a hotel. So ambitious of you, Dahlia! Jaren is skeptical about her plan, but Dahlia isn't building an ordinary hotel. She wants it to become a popular one. By keeping the prices affordable for the middle and lower classes, she believes it can attract a much larger market, even nobles. Jaren worries about the massive resources needed since she's going all out, but Dahlia reveals she discovered a magic mine that could support the project perfectly. To her disappointment, however, the mine contains no magic at all. At first, Dahlia thinks Jaren is joking, but he insists he would never joke about something that serious after investigating it multiple times. Eventually, she gives up and accepts that her hotel plan may be doomed. Well, there must be another way, right? Still unwilling to quit, Dahlia searches for another solution and suddenly thinks of magical beings. She immediately writes a letter requesting the help of a wizard highly skilled in alchemy. When the wizard receives it, she becomes eager to visit personally, wanting to meet Dahlia herself. The party is ongoing, the most awaited moment. Princess Hessen has fully recovered, as announced by the king, and wishes to create a bond closer to Dahlia. Thanks to her, she is saved. Following that, the business rights are now hers. She cannot be happier right now. Since the establishment of friendship ties with Hessen, business matters are much easier to negotiate, leading to success. After a while, she enjoys the party while Hestia is feeling a bit anxious. Dahlia tells her how much she contributed to the princess's healing and that she deserves to step inside the party. Shortly thereafter, Urian Lowell approaches them, shocking Dahlia because it's the first time she's seen him. Actually, same. Then she recalled that he was the person that Jaren had mentioned, and they greeted each other. Urian congratulates her after they introduce themselves. He wants to be addressed casually and keeps complimenting her, but Dahlia insists on being formal because she feels that it is right. Absolutely! Like, is he trying to flirt here? Urian considers her competition, but seeing her in the flesh makes him realize how much of a help she would be in the long run, and Dahlia feels the same way. If so, he gives her useful information regarding young Master Myers of Averlin, who is apparently preparing to buy land, which Dahlia should be prepared for. That's serious business competition. What about your hotel? The next day, Dahlia heads north, which worries Jaren and Hestia, but she persists and thinks of her objections the most. She is set to go there for business purposes for a bit, with Khazar returning home. No matter how blinded by love she is, Dahlia knows how to put boundaries on business too, so she knows Duke Goldman's hidden agenda that is hiding in plain sight. Dahlia waves them goodbye while still having clouded thoughts in her mind, including Lord River. Because of the overwhelming happenings, thinking about him won't hurt her anymore. She wishes to see Rudrick, though. Meanwhile, a strange character appears. Even Dahlia is confused. Respectfully, who exactly are you? It's actually O'Neill, the mage who came from the tower after receiving her letter. She apologizes for startling her all of a sudden. She is now the tower master in this story. Dahlia cannot comprehend the sudden shift right now, but they head inside and talk about it with Rudrick. Rudrick falls in love with O'Neill at first sight in the original story, which worries Dahlia. A love triangle? Interesting. Dahlia questions the mage's strategy of using monster mana. She's also dubious about its viability, but a little practice won't hurt. O'Neill urges Dahlia to negotiate with the Duke on the project and mistakes her for the Duke's partner, which makes the entire process easier and makes her flabbergasted. She is surprised knowing nothing has been going on between the two of them, leading to those baseless rumors. O'Neill asks later if she still has a chance and leaves Dahlia dumbfounded. She makes sure that nothing is going on between Dahlia and the Duke. It's a matter of time to build up courage. After a while, she is left inside and tries to figure things out right now. And yes, that includes relationship matters instead of business. I would also freak out if I were in her situation, not gonna lie. Despite the original story, she is also considerate about what she feels as well. She is conflicted between helping them out or not fueling her jealousy. Dahlia heads out to unwind and get some fresh air before her head explodes. Meanwhile, outside, O'Neill continues with her plan while explaining about a portal for their convenience. She then asks him to let her help him. Rudrick's face changes all of a sudden. The Duke doesn't need her help. He suspects her of being someone with weird intentions and whereabouts. Strangely enough, she welcomed Dahlia as if it were their first time meeting. He won't stand a chance if something happens, so he will keep an eye on her all throughout. O'Neill questions if all his fate is set because of Dahlia, and how soon it will become unhappy because of her. But he does not care and won't believe in any of those. Everyone acts for their own happiness, he says. She tries to twist his words with a bit of contradiction. Therefore, he asks a question as well about her purpose. O'Neill wants him to believe her when she tells him. Come on, what is it? Anyway, Dahlia receives the news about a gate connecting to the Averlin mansion, which allows her to visit the busy Duke rather than staying alone. Apparently, O'Neill is there too for the whole research period. Not like she's complaining or anything. Rudrick urges her to go home, but Dahlia tells him it's fine because she has a friend. O'Neill opens a portal connected to the Hessen at their house. Meanwhile, at home, her mother looks for Rudrick, who is busy at the moment. She then tells her about the news regarding the blonde grandchild. She then hands Dahlia a letter from Lord River. Did something wrong happen? Inside the letter is a request for him to see Dahlia. She spirals her thoughts and jumps to various conclusions as to why there's a sudden meetup with Lord River. But since he is doing something urgent at the moment, she thinks it's hard for him to come freely. Nonetheless, Dahlia goes back to the north to check it herself. She goes back to see Rudrick and borrows him for a moment from O'Neill. Now that they're alone, she asks about her sketchy behavior and how it's affecting Rudrick, but he speculates a different meaning from Dahlia's words. Anyway, she just wants answers about Goldman and the troops. Shortly after receiving his answer, she exits immediately. Dahlia, that was so awkward. She falls down in embarrassment and contemplates her life choices while also getting distracted by the fact that Rudrick and the mage both look good together. She vowed not to go back to the north again, but alas, she is just as stubborn as ever and looks for him for no reason at all. Okay, this might be a little, an obsession. Dahlia becomes so caught up in her own emotions that she forgets about the hotel and the plans that need to be implemented, which angers Jaren. Dahlia finally comes to her senses and realizes the lapses she's been making. Jaren then states the obvious, if she were ever jealous of the both of them, which leaves her defensive. Dahlia struggles with her feelings for Rudrick, denying them at first, but eventually admitting she once had lingering feelings for him. Jaren presses for clarity, and she confesses she still feels confused and can't sort her emotions properly. Jaren then brings up Myers' plan to build a casino. Though it's currently illegal, the king is considering legalizing gambling, which could make it possible. Dahlia wonders if she still has a chance given Rudrick's connections, including ties to her aunt, though she treats it as speculation. Surprisingly, she also learns the Goldman family supports the idea. Time to lock in Dahlia so we can defeat Myers! The Empire consists of 3 ducal families: the Bowser family, the Aberin family, and lastly, the Goldman family. Their family roles are quite significant and out of the ordinary, not like any other families out there. Dahlia knew about the Duke's ambitions, but not something illegal like building a casino. She believes they have the support of the Emperor. Things are all over the place, but really intriguing. When O'Neill meets with Dahlia, she quickly notices how anxious she seems. After apologizing, she updates her on their monster research, but she still wants to know what's troubling Dahlia, believing she'll feel better once she shares it. Dahlia hesitates to open up, so O'Neill dramatically promises she would rather die than reveal her secret, but leaving Dahlia stunned. Eventually, Dahlia tells her about the legalization of gambling. Confident in her abilities, O'Neill casually suggests brainwashing those who support it. Dahlia is uncomfortable with the idea, especially knowing one wrong move could put their lives at risk. Still, O'Neill continues pushing for it. In the original story, she was kind-hearted, but now her choices feel far more selfish. This is quite sad, don't you think? Dahlia won't risk this monstrosity of a plan and commands her to forget about everything she just said. She walks out of the room, making O'Neill think about her decisions in life now that she's a different person, which really upsets Dahlia. She clears her head while walking, even though she has not received any updates about the research. All of that for what? She reestablishes herself and focuses on what's more important, which is the gambling house run by Duke Goldman. For sure, illegal things are happening inside as we speak, so she needs someone to help her. River Goldman. The two finally meet, and the first thing River does is apologize to her. Dahlia is quite lost, but it's about what happened in the north. She's so confused at the moment. Since her father was in debt, he figured on using the maid of the Bowser family. Unfortunately, she died. She also stole the ring that was so important for the Bowser family that it was used to seal the Dark Forest. River believed that Rudrick had discussed this issue with Dahlia, but it may not have been in his mind. Dahlia speculates this whole topic is a part of River's way of saying sorry for deceiving her. River denies it and assures her that no amount of apology like this one would be enough for what he has done, which he deeply regrets. Well, at least you own up to your mistakes. Accepted. He isn't there for that matter. Instead, he warns Dahlia to stay cautious and mentions his father's involvement in the incident, something she also wanted to discuss. Rudrick cannot say much, but he knows the ring was never found after Lady Fedwick's death, making everything seem even more suspicious. Dahlia then brings up his father's gambling house, which Rudrick already knows well. River's father wanted his eldest son to handle the business, but his stubbornness left River managing it alone. Seeing how gambling destroys lives, River believes it should end. He no longer cares if his family is heading down the wrong path, and Dahlia is impressed by his honesty. I hope he guides their family in the correct direction. Dahlia asks politely about what he brought up earlier about his father's expectations of him. When River was still a child, he had nothing to achieve because of him being sickly. His siblings accomplished things enough to talk about, something that River so vulnerably shares with her. He wants to achieve something now that he is older and prove his father wrong. That's why he joined the war. His father eventually gave up on him due to his disobedience. Dahlia thinks about how hard it is for him and tells him that she will do everything to prevent the legalization of gambling, but she needs River's help. He agrees and can't believe this is happening for him. Meanwhile, Rudrick receives shocking news about Dahlia's and River's engagement. All of a sudden? Apparently, those are just rumors, but Rudrick can't just stand there and not do something. He opts to solve the problem by brute force, but that will do nothing. If that were to happen, the princess would resent him entirely his whole life. But for Rudrick, it's River who she should resent, considering what he did to her. What really held him to do it is when Russ told him that Dahlia really loves River despite that. It would really be respectful if he would consider her happiness. He drops his sword and orders Russ to be prepared for their visit at the Imperial Palace. I never knew Rudrick was this down bad. O'Neill also heard the rumors and wants to clarify it with Dahlia. And yes, it's all true. Just as she's explaining about how great River is, O'Neill suddenly brings up Rudrick. Dahlia just says that they're friends and nothing more, which really bugs her with the changes in the future. O'Neill abruptly draws her sword, but Dahlia stops her and allows her to clarify that it's merely for show. You see, this was the agreement they both agreed on the day they met. River was actually nervous about this, but Dahlia is too clever for that. She can give his father the money he needs right now, particularly for his gambling business. By interacting with his father, River gains his trust and gains control over the casino. I agree, that's a good idea, but don't you think things could get worse? Dahlia warns O'Neill never to do something that dangerous again, but O'Neill insists she couldn't help it. Dahlia deserves someone better. She reminds Dahlia how important happiness is and speaks with unusual sincerity. Even though they have only just met, O'Neill feels deeply grateful toward her for reasons Dahlia cannot understand yet. Someday, she promises, she will explain everything. Meanwhile, Rudrick wanders through the Imperial Palace until he unexpectedly runs into River, leaving him genuinely surprised. May the best man win. The Duke praises his son for now becoming a true Goldman now that he's engaging with the young lady. He reminds River how crucial his role is in the family, and especially in the kind of buzz he entered. He pauses and considers how heavy it is at the moment, but he still understands everything. At the very least, he should just keep Dahlia close with his good looks that he inherited from his mother. In order for her not to escape, his father demands he bear a child with her. After all, the Goldman family wishes for most of the wealth her family has. I feel so bad for River to have a father like him. Moments later, Rudrick suddenly pins River against the wall by the throat. He insists it's all a misunderstanding, but still insults him by comparing him to his father. River asks if Dahlia told him about it, realizing his suspicion was right. It seems Rudrick is avoiding Dahlia, or that she's avoiding him. Though others see him as a villain, his intentions aren't truly malicious. River turns the accusation back on him, saying Rudrick is acting just like his father, reckless and irrational. He adds that Dahlia doesn't deserve someone who can't even communicate properly with her. The way I thought River would lose to Rudrick, he really twisted the knife. River tells Rudrick to ask Dahlia himself, but warns him to stop being aggressive or he will take her away. He leaves and Rudrick is left stunned and wanting answers. Inside the palace, River tells Dahlia that Rudrick knows about everything already. The deception and the engagement rumors. Jaren waves all this away as messy and even points out that River admits he could have done better. Dahlia makes a joke about her type of men to defuse the situation as River's attempt to steal her away is addressed. She also wonders if Rudrick ever got her letter as he suddenly vanished from her life. Meanwhile, River sees that she's with Jaren, who will be meeting with a magician about a marriage arrangement. Could this be O'Neill or Hestia? River attempts to talk to his father about the investor they talked about before. Lady Averin helped with him as well, gaining positive responses. In fact, they're already there to meet him as they speak. First up, Honey Sweetie, a lady from a trading company. What's up with her name? Cracked me up. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!